what they'd call the useless eaters. Basically, they expected to justify their existence, so they bring them out and they say, you need to justify your existence, and if they can't, and they're just a waste of space, then we eliminate them, basically. And that's why I thought you might have got the two confused.
No, I hear what you're saying, bro. I'm pretty sure, but I just can't remember what he did. It escapes me. But I'm here, Andy. What's up?
No, earlier when I said that thing I wanted to say, but it were a different topic, so I didn't want to interrupt. But it were a weird thing from... Look, this is how my pattern recognition works. It's very odd, but you might not even remember, to be honest. But you remember I kept posting little bits, and I was talking about an old philosopher, not too old, relatively speaking, Bertrand Russell. And you were like, oh, that guy's a jerk. I can't believe you're promoting that guy. Can you remember?
Oh, yeah. I know him very well, yeah. Well, not very well, but yeah, skullduggery. But go on.
Well, I'm convinced. Okay, I think you might have got the wrong person, I think. But you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Is it sir? Hold on. Is it sir? Is he a knight? He's been knighted?
I don't think so. This is Bertrand Russell. And who I think you thought I was talking about, I think, was George Bernard Shaw.
No. Russell.
That's what Bernard Shaw looks like.
I'm pretty sure it was him, bro.
Because I was thinking about it and I thought, Bertrand Russell should be your guy for so many reasons. One of the reasons is he calls out Israel. That's why that's one of the things I used to post, right, all the time. And you used to say, "Oh, he said that." I've got that picture somewhere. It says, "Wait a minute, I'll find it in a minute."
I'm trying to remember now what skullduggery he did, but it slips my mind right now. But it'll come to me.
It says, "I'll tell you in a sec." No people anywhere in the world would accept being expelled en masse from their own country. How can anyone require the people of Palestine to accept a punishment which nobody else would tolerate? Which is fair enough, isn't it? But the other thing why I thought you'd like him is because he were regarded as a very intelligent man, certainly philosopher, and he didn't believe in Christianity. So I thought he's your guy. he's ticking all the boxes. So I thought you'd perhaps got him confused with George Bernard Shaw because he was a sort of advocate for a lot of eugenics rhetoric. So he was a part of the Fabian Society, and they used to talk. He made this very sort of hyperbolic video where he talked about what they'd call the useless eaters. Basically, they expected to justify their existence, so they bring them out and they say, you need to justify your existence, and if they can't, and they're just a waste of space, then we eliminate them, basically. And that's why I thought you might have got the two confused.
No, I hear what you're saying, bro. I'm pretty sure, but I just can't remember what he did. It escapes me. But it'll come to me probably when we're done talking about it. But I can't remember because he did something either with logic or with geometry. I can't remember, but he did something very major to screw things up, like around the turn of the century. It escapes me right now.
All right, I've got to ask ChatGPT now because I've looked into the guy. Well, not much, but not enough. I've got to ask. Hang on. What can I ask? Did he do anything controversial?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a clip recently of that. The other guy, the eugenics guy, and I thought, I bet SE thought I meant him. I've got to ask it for short answers because I don't want it to hang on. Yes, Bertrand Russell was involved in several controversies. He opposed World War I. That's clearly a good thing. Advocated for sexual freedom. Iffy. Criticised religion. That's right up your street. And was jailed for his anti-war activism. Well, I mean, that's a good thing. His views on morality and religion led to him being denied academic positions and public platforms at times. I don't think we're thinking the same person, SE, because this guy's right up your street. He is your cup of tea, so to speak.
I'm pretty sure it was him. I'll put that on hold until I remember exactly what it is. But yeah, what you just read, that's he's anti-war. He's against the state of Israel, which is an apartheid state. I mean, all those things are good. But what was that about the sexual movement?
Well, it doesn't go into detail, but it just said he was an advocate for sexual freedom.
He said right up your street, Andy.
That's
His
that can be
as he,
interpreted all kinds of ways, can't it?
his grandfather was a lord, not himself.
Maybe we are talking about a different guy. I have a meme on him, so I'll try to find it. And this guy is a sir, so he was knighted. Maybe I am mixing it up. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking about his grandfather. It's possible. Yeah, that's the dude. That's the dude.
Yeah.
Russell posted him. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's Bertrand Russell. What did he do that's so bad? I don't know.
He's a logician. That's right. He screwed up logic, bro. Yeah, I think it's starting to come. Did he come up with fuzzy logic or something? He did something with logic, this guy. But I just can't pinpoint what it is.
I can't wait to hear this.
It's gonna come to me. It's gonna, because we did this like years ago. But I'm drawing a blank right now. But it's gonna come to me.
I'm asking ChatGPT, what's his controversy on logic?
With logic. Yeah.
It's Russell's paradox. Does the set of all sets that do not contain themselves contain itself?
Say it again.
The set of all sets that do not contain themselves contain itself?
You see what I mean? What the hell does that mean? Anybody?
Some sets contain themselves. I'm reading, but some sets do not contain themselves. Now think of a special set. The set of all sets that do not contain themselves. Call this set R. Does R contain itself? If R contains itself, then by its definition, it should not contain itself, since R only contains sets that don't contain themselves. If R doesn't contain itself, then it should contain itself, since it contains all sets that do not contain themselves. This creates a contradiction. R both does and does not contain itself at the same time.
There it is. There it is. He messed up logic. You see that? How the hell? That's a contradiction right there.
That's like when someone says there's something outside of reality, because then that would be in reality. It's like the same concept.
But he just made P not P. Or Q not Q, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like when someone says that there's something outside reality. It's not possible.
Yeah, it's dialetheism. So if P equals not P, then P is both P and not P, right? So it's dialetheism. It's just, it's philosophical masturbation, basically.
Yep. Logic. He messed up logic. So there you go, Andy. That, I guess that, but still can't.
I still I still don't get it. I'm still looking into it.
Did you hear what he just read out, though?
Yeah, and I didn't understand it.
Exactly.
That do not contain themselves.
What does that mean? Anybody?
Some sets contain themselves. I'm reading, but some sets do not contain themselves. Now think of a special set. The set of all sets that do not contain themselves. Call this set R. Does R contain itself? If R contains itself, then by its definition, it should not contain itself, since R only contains sets that don't contain themselves. If R doesn't contain itself, then it should contain itself, since it contains all sets that do not contain themselves. This creates a contradiction. R both does and does not contain itself at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that could just mean I'm fake.
Well, no, it's like if you have a set, right? If you have a set, right? And he's saying, and if you have a set that doesn't include that set, then that set is not included in any set, but that would be in a set.
That's not helping.
Okay, so a barber in a village shaves everybody who doesn't shave themselves. Now, does the barber shave himself?
Yeah, that's a good example. There you go. That's
Get
the
right
barber's paradox.
So is it a problem between material things and mathematics? Is that what you're saying? Is it a bit like that actor on Joe Rogan where he was saying whatever he said? I can't remember the thing he said now.
Sounds like a language. It sounds like a language thing to me, since
Well,
language
Terrence
is
Howard?
subjective.
Terrence Howard, that guy. Yeah, it sounds like that Terrence Howard thing. Is this a similar thing to that? I don't know.
Well, why do words mean what they mean, Andy?
Because we give them the meaning. We give them.
So therefore, they're subjective and not an objective truth. So if you wordsmith something together
Well-
for a long enough amount of time, you could find the subjectiveness in language, right?
We could be living in a reality where intelligences are so infinite and fractal, where we're living in a something created by higher intelligences where they could control every rotation of the smallest thing in existence. Outside of it, or in a deeper one, or in a higher one.
All right, I wrote it out for you, Andy. I hope this helps.
Yeah, the ChatGPT gave me the barber paradox as well. It says the silly barber problem is just like the set problem Russell found. Instead of barbers and shaving, the original version used sets and whether they contain themselves. Russell showed that some ideas, though they seem logical, lead to impossible situations.
Was he knighted? Does it say if he was knighted?
I don't think so.
You think we should bring that
Pretty
back?
sure
I
he
see,
was.
like knighting people.
No, it was his grandfather by Queen Victoria.
Say we keep the sword, remove the knighting process.
Like, because that would have definitely sorted out the whole, like, which one do we save on the Titanic, the women and children or the men? Obviously, the knighted men first.
Elton
Obviously.
John. Elton John and Paul McCartney are knighted, I'm pretty sure.
I think they gave those back, didn't they? I'm pretty sure.
Did they?
Yeah, it was a whole thing. I know they got the what's the other one? Order of the British Empire or something like that first, isn't it? Oh god, it all escapes me now. I'm so the pomp and ceremony of all that stuff. Just I get a bit icked by it all, to be honest.
Are you sick? Did you have like a cold? Look congested?
No. It's just late.
It's tired.
But yeah, what's the Order of the British Empire thing? That's what people usually get first. I seem to recall it was a huge deal because they're just sort of 4 Liverpool lads and all that. And then I'm pretty sure they gave them the mic, but obviously Sir Paul, he's still Sir Paul, so obviously he didn't give his back. But I know John hated all that kind of stuff as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gave his back. I think that's probably what got him killed in the end, to be fair.
Yeah, when you change it to Steve Jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, well, even though he ironically created a great group, he wasn't much of a how can I put it? He wasn't a good joiner of things because I this is why I love John so much, because I feel the same in that when you're young and you experience terrible loss in this way, until you work it out for yourself anyway, what you do just naturally is push people away so they don't leave you first, basically. So John's mum died when he was very, very young, and his dad just left because they lived on a port anyway. So his his dad just sailed off and his mum died. So the two people who were supposed to love him the most left him. So that's going to create a situation where you push people away, basically. There's a name for it in psychology. I can't think of it though right now.
Well, that's interesting because I think a lot of people live a lifestyle too. Like, if I take advantage of you first, then you can't take advantage of me. And I think actually parents teach that to their children unknowingly to them.
It's like an attachment disorder or something like that. But I had the same thing. So I lost my dad at a very young age too when I was 7 years old. So it's just something that you don't really notice you're actually doing until obviously you pushed everyone away and you're like, fuck. So, but also it makes you, and again, I said it again, before, he made this incredible group, and yet I just know that he wouldn't have been a very good joiner of things. I don't mean someone who worked with wood. I mean a joiner of groups, because let's face it, that's who run the world, basically. People who have the little fellowships. And yeah, I can just imagine with Johnny wouldn't have joined anything very, I don't know if I'm coming across, you know what I'm saying, because I'm not doing it justice. It's like I know what I want to say, but the words don't come out.
Yeah, well, if you're the odd one out, if you're the stick in the mud by your own volition, your own choice, then no one can say that like it's a bad thing. You chose to do it, right? Or I mean, he wrote that one song with Yoko, "Woman Are the of the World." I don't know if you know that song. Yeah.
Don't be afraid of words. You can say words.
Hey, did you say at 7?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Thank you for sharing that. Very similar experience.
Yeah, it's difficult because you sort of need a father figure, don't you? And so that's one of the reasons. Another reason why I was so broken as a child as well. So we need a certain amount of discipline in our lives, and but then again, my dad was quite fucked up as well, so he had a bit of a drinking problem. So it's probably for the best, to be honest.
Just for the record, Andy, he wasn't knighted. I got that part wrong. He was not knighted.
One of those names though, that does sound like a knighted name though, right? Like I could hear it in my head, Sir Bertrand Russell. It does sound like one of those names.
Yeah, I don't know why I mixed that up, but I did.
Well, as I said earlier, he's speaking out against Israel. When a very intelligent man says certain things, like you don't believe in Christianity, for instance. Although that would have been sort of after Darwin and all that stuff. That I suppose that's par for the course. That would have been with the mainstream ideas. So perhaps that's not the best example. But speaking out against Israel, things like that, I think, would go against you as well, wouldn't it? In terms of being establishment.
Especially back then. Like right now, bashing Israel is en vogue, like they say, right? It's in style. But then you'd get banished. Like,
yeah, that's what I meant. If you sort of give him knighthood, it's like the crown's agreeing with him as well, right?
yeah. Anyways, this guy was, around the turn of the century, they messed up geometry, math. They introduced all these crazy ideas, right? The time of changing of the guard, like, let's say, right? So this guy was one of them. This guy did stuff with logic and some math. It'll come to me what was the main thing, but that set theory is one of them. Like, what the hell does that mean? P can be Q at the same time? Really?
In reality, it means nothing. There's never a time where Russell's paradox, or for that matter, most of these so-called paradoxes, would ever matter. It is philosophical masturbation through and through.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like when you take concepts to their, you start to get like space and time bending and warping and stuff like that. It's crazy.
The purpose is to stroke your ego, and then like in some country club, a guy goes, "You heard about that one?" And they get to flex. I understand that one, of course. They pretend they understand it when it doesn't make any sense.
It's kind of weird. Real. It appears like a competition of who knows more stuff, more of the crazy stuff, instead of like trying to critical think it. Like it's a competition of who knows the crazy model more. Like, really? Is that what it's all about?
Yeah, right. Who can make this concept like more extreme, even though it doesn't exist in reality? Yeah, I mean, people eat it up. They love it. Like, people think that, like, some of these paradoxes exist in reality. Like, you couldn't make it to the end of the path because you have to go half the path. Therefore, you have to go quarter of the path. Therefore, you have to go eighth. People think that like exists in reality or something.
Yeah. Another crazy idea. You can never reach there because you can always half it. What kind of a crazy nut job comes up with a thing like that? And more important, who believes it and repeats it? Like space-time, right? It took a kook to come up with it, but people are actually believing it, putting it into mathematical formulas, making stuff out of it. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's out of reality.
As far as Zeno's paradox, you do have to go half the distance an infinite amount of times to get to the end of the road.
Yeah.
So you can't get to the end of the road in reality, Jeremy? I figured he's getting stuck at his house.
You can obviously get to the end of the road.
Then you just take like a trip somewhere?
What's up?
Didn't you just like take a trip, like you had a destination in mind and you made it to that destination?
Yeah, we can obviously get to the end, yeah. But you do have to go. Once you're half the distance, you have to go half of that distance.
Yeah, not in reality though. It doesn't break down to this half.
That's reality. I was halfway to Florida, and then from that point, I got halfway to Florida again.
But how'd you ever make it to Florida, dude? If you had to first go half, that means you would have had to go a quarter. That means you would have had to go an eighth. That means you would have had to go a 16th. That means you would have had to go a 32nd. How'd you get there?
Zeno's paradox isn't true.
Thank you. In reality,
that's the example I use for when math breaks down, where math describing reality breaks down. I had people. I've had armbar in here telling me that, oh, it's because we warp. You can't go farther than a Planck length, so we warp. Or so he brought it down to like warping.
Yeah, I'm sure. Then you could say things without volume. It can exist and all kinds of stuff. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, that's in not reality. That's in like in the imagination.
Well, according to ChatGPT, according to ChatGPT, Russell's whole that step problem and all that stuff, it all. Let me just have a look what he says. Because I was saying, is it problematic with logic? Does it go against any logic? And it says no, quite the opposite. It actually reinforces logic.
What?
That's what he's saying.
So P being P and Q at the same time, that's logic.
Russell's system was designed so that A is A always remains true, never false or self-contradictory. yeah, I've been asking it a few questions about it. So yeah, I don't think it goes against logic.
This has to do with set theory. Do you know what set theory is? Do any of you guys know what set theory is?
I know what it is.
Does anyone in here, like, who is reading that, even know what set theory is? Because you guys are all laughing about it, like, oh, this means that, but do you even know what set theory is? Do you know what a set is? Or are you just assuming?
I didn't say.
Are you just assuming the word set means P and Q and laughing about it?
No, I didn't think it broke any logic.
Well, yeah, the way he said it, it's like it could be part of the set and not part of the set, if I understood it correctly.
Okay, but
So
my
that's
question
why-
is, do you know what a set is, or are you just assuming that's P and Q?
No, a set is like a number of things, like a set, if I have it correctly. Maybe I'm wrong. What's a set?
It's a
Bro,
collection of
set theory.
objects.
Yeah, I
A
think you
number
got it
of
right.
objects, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. So he said that you can both be a set and not be part of the set, if I understood it correctly. That's why I said it can be both P and Q at the same time. Maybe I misunderstood it.
Well, that's how holography works. The part and the whole are one and the same, and light shows that. Light proves that that's the case. Might sound like a paradox, but that's reality in the case of a hologram.
Or in the case of an entity like the United States of America, it's made up of a collective of individuals, but you can both be the individual and also part of the collective. It's just you have to know the context and how to rightly divide where the boundaries are at.
What do you think the set meant, Gio? The way he explained it? What do you think it means?
There's just a lot more complexity to this whole topic. When you look up what set theory is, and you look up what the actual Russell's paradox is, I just feel like you guys read that and then we're just laughing about it without actually understanding what the whole thing entails.
I've never heard of set theory. I don't know what that is. If you don't, but I get the analogy with the holography here.
I don't get it. What do you mean? What does that have to do? How does that?
Well, I don't know. Gio is the one.
I'm asking. I don't know. I'm
I
asking.
think Gio knows more about it than I do.
Bro, set theory is when you get. I used to argue this with Omnivore and some of these guys. Set theory is when you get one infinity bigger than another infinity.
No, but I was talking in relation to holography. Is that how you say it?
Holography. I don't know how to say it, dude, but it seems like it gets into fractals and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, but how can
But
you
essentially,
be?
each part of the hologram contains the whole of the entire image. So it's like the way interferometry works when you split light. So each fraction, each individual split image contains the entire image. That's why I brought that up. I mean, one might think that's a
Oh yeah, I
contradiction,
get it.
but
Yeah,
that's how
yeah.
light actually works.
Have you ever
I
seen
get
when
what
they
you're
make a
saying now.
picture? They'll like make a picture of Robert De Niro, but they'll use like smaller pictures of Robert De Niro to make the picture.
No, but each
Yeah.
piece has the hole in it. Like that's freaked out. That like I get what Gio's saying.
Bro, set theory's nuts. I don't know what you guys were talking about with the P's and Q's, but set theory gets a little weird at some spots.
Well, maybe we should reread the sentence that he said. Maybe we misunderstood it. Because the way I understood it is you can be both in the set and out of the set. Maybe I did not get it.
I think it was something to do with paradoxes. I see. Like you can create certain paradoxes in logic, and so that's why I said before that whatever we're putting forward, we're protecting the law of identity, basically.
No, I'm gonna have to look more into the set theory because, like I said, that I've gone over this guy like years ago, and like I said, I forgot most of it.
I would say one of the closest things you get to a paradox in real life is the grandfather's axe.
Oh yeah. Like
Or
you
they use a
replace
ship. Sometimes they'll use a ship.
you replace everything on it. Is it still his axe?
Yeah.
But that would be like attributing a value, right? So it's this whole concept, right? So yeah, you could go crazy with concepts as much as you want.
Yeah, I don't know.
Blame Andy. He brought it up. He brought Bertrand Russell up.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I didn't mean to like come in hot with it. I just I'm not saying I even understand all of the complexity of Bertrand Russell's paradox when it comes to these sets, but I was just kind of coming in hot because I just was listening, and it just seemed like you guys were like reading one thing and then laughing about it and then linking it to P's and Q's, which I just don't think is really the whole picture of what's being discussed. And that's why I was just asking if you guys knew what sets were, and like to be able to do a full analysis, it seems like you'd have to understand like set theory and then all the mathematics behind this, because there are certain like things in mathematics that would seem logically inconsistent from one perspective, even kind of like the holography with holograms, where it would seem like if a part is a part, why would it have the whole in it? You know what I mean? If a part is a part, it should be a part, but actually the part contains the whole. So there are some things in consciousness and in reality that have these components to them. So it just seems like to write all of Bertrand Russell off or what he was saying without having like a full rundown of it just seemed like kind of a quick jump to that.
Oh wow, yeah, I wouldn't do that. But you do agree the argument is laid out with P's and Q's? Like if R is a member of itself, then it must not be a member of itself according to its well, I guess I would say I shouldn't say P's and Q's, but it is laid out in a logical form, right? With like a premise and a conclusion.
I just posted the paradox. If you want, we can explore it.
Completely off topic, but just real quick, this is just reminding me of the Mandelbrot sets, and anyone that doesn't know what the Mandelbrot sets are, you really should look into them. That's where our Elohim, our creator, reveals himself in mathematics. So thank you. Sorry.
Let me read it quickly, right? The setup. Imagine the set R defined as R equals X. X is the set, and X is not a member of itself. In other words, R is the set of all sets that do not contain themselves. What do you guys think? And the paradox is right underneath, of course. Now ask the question, is R a member of itself? If R, what is that? What is that E thing? Is that an equal thing? What is that? We need a math guru for that one. What's that E symbol?
I don't know. I think it's equal, dude. I don't know though. And the other one must be not equal.
Belongs to, element of.
Element of?
Yeah, so if R is an element of R, by the definition, this is the paradox at the bottom. If R is an element of R, by the definition of R, it must not contain itself. If R is not an element of R, then by definition, it must contain itself. So P equals not P. That's the end of the paradox. P if and only if not P, P equals not P.
So P equals not P, right? Because I thought it meant P equals P. So it's clearly saying P is not P.
Yeah, P
Right?
if and only if not P.
Unless you disagree there's any P's there, you know.
So it's like P is true when P is false. P being true means it must be false. P being false means it must be true. P if and only if not P.
It just seems like a different version of like this statement is false. I don't. What is the weight or the impact that it has? Like paradox is something that we can comprehend. Okay, we have plenty of paradoxes that we could look at, I'm guessing. So why does it matter that somebody decided to come up and word it this way? It doesn't change what it is, and it doesn't affect like literally anything.
It reveals an issue in like low-level set theory, like not specific set theory. So the purpose of the paradox is to say that if you don't specify enough, you could get into like infinite regression issues. So, you know, that's like the purpose of a paradox is to expose an issue in logic. So paradoxes are good. They're useful, but this is like showing how like low-level set theory can lead to issues.
This is truly a mind melt. Like,
What is low-level set theory used for?
This isn't even the set theory we use. This was the precursor to set theory that this problem was in. I don't think it's even a problem with the set theory we use now.
I know what Dyslow talks about. A wave is not a wave of itself. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, he
I
said a
posted
wave's
a
not a
diagram.
thing. He said a wave's not a thing. It's just something water's doing. But when you follow that logic through, chairs don't exist. The chair is not a thing. It's just a thing what the wood is doing.
If you're not descriptive enough, right? It's not just a chair. It's actually wood. It can both be wood and a chair.
It's like the oversimplification thing.
I think this has to get with it has to do with like not knowing where the boundaries are at, not being specific enough.
Don't you guys want to explore the paradox a bit before we veer off?
Well, what Jeremy was saying was that it's similar, right? Somebody mentioned the water not being the wave, or the wave not waving itself, or whatever. And Jeremy, I think, was kind of playing off of that. That if you follow it, you get to something that we would all see as obvious. But I don't think that he carried it properly, because the chair still exists, even if it is something that wood is doing. Like, because it still exists conceptually. That's really the only way the chair exists at all. It is just wood sitting there, but it's in a particular shape that we deem or label to be a chair. It's not like the chair is absolute universally. It's not like if there was some other intelligent species that had never seen a chair before, it's not like they would identify it as a chair universally, automatically within themselves. Once they saw it, we call it a chair. And what we use it for, what we're referring to when we say chair, would still exist conceptually, even if we didn't have the word chair.
Right.
Yeah, but back to the paradox. Do you guys see the thing I posted? It's
Yeah,
visual, right?
He logicked
check
his
this
way
out,
to
right?
God right there. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's freaked out. So set R contains all sets that do not contain themselves. Right? So the question is, does R contain itself? So this says that any answer you say contradicts the definition.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's basically the same thing as this statement is false. Well, if the statement is true, then it's false. But if the statement is false, then it's true. There's really no further to take it. Like, it is a paradox, and it's always going to be that. It's not like you're going to stumble upon an answer through conversation.
Yeah, but do you know that Russell had a way to avoid it, which he calls type theory?
Was that like an actual question, or was that?
What's that about?
Or was that rhetorical?
Well, I was just asking if you guys knew that. I mean, because at the beginning, it just seemed like you guys were like, oh, this guy's just lost in logic because of this one paradox. But it's not like he didn't know it was a paradox and didn't have all kinds of theories and stuff to back it. Like, this is just from Wikipedia, but it says Russell showed that a version of the paradox could be derived in the axiomatic system constructed by German philosopher and mathematician Gottlob Frege, hence undermining Frege's attempt to reduce mathematics to logic and calling into question the logistics program. Two influential ways of avoiding the paradox were both proposed in 1908, Russell's own type theory and the Zermelo set theory. I'm just saying it's not just as simple as like, oh, this guy's just a lost in logic because P doesn't equal P. Like, there's a lot more to this. I'm not saying I'm an expert in this, but just looking at the Wikipedia for Russell's paradox, for type theory, there's just a huge amount of complexity to this in terms of like how he tried to kind of deal with that paradox, and he knew about it. It's not like he just put that out there and it was that he's just a bad logician because of that.
I don't understand why someone would take the viewpoint that he's somehow lost in logic if he saw a system that was being used and then identified a problem with the system. That seems like he's the one who's not lost. Other people were using a system that was flawed, and he identified a flaw, right?
Well, this is mostly my fault, because I had said that something about this guy in the turn of the century, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was. And then we're saying, could it be this logic thing? Because I remember something about this dude, but like I said, it's not coming to me what exactly it is. So this is partially my fault here, but it'll come to me. Something about this guy, Russell.
Well, this is like from the type theory. It says type theory was created to avoid paradoxes in native set theory and formal logic, such as Russell's paradox, which demonstrates that without proper axioms, it is possible to define the set of all sets that are not members of themselves. This set both contains itself and does not contain itself. Between 1902 and 1908, Bertrand Russell proposed various solutions to the problem. Then it goes on and on. In 1908, Russell arrived at a ramified theory of types together with an axiom of reducibility, both of which appeared in Whitehead and Russell's Principia Mathematica, published in 1910, 12, and 13. This system avoided contradictions suggested in Russell's paradox by creating a hierarchy of types and then assigning each concrete mathematical entity to a specific type. Entities of a given type were built exclusively on subtypes of that type, thus preventing an entity from being defined using itself. This resolution of Russell's paradox is similar to approaches taken in other formal systems, such as Zermelo-Fraenkel set theory.
So he's saying that there's a way around because, they say that there's no such thing as a paradox, right? So then this must be wrong then. I'm trying to figure out how it's wrong. Now you're saying this other guy figured it out, right? So what's going on here? Because there's no such thing as a paradox, right? There's no such thing as a paradox, right?
Not in reality.
I think whether it's right or wrong or a problem is going to have to depend on the parameters that you're setting before you get to it. Like, if your parameters are exactly what it states, well, then yes, you have a problem because there's a paradox. If you just change the parameters, there's no problem anymore.
You can have a paradox with conventions. If you just start making up conventions, you can have a paradox within that. But in reality, just straight reality, no conventions. Yeah, I would say there's probably no paradox. You can't have A and not A.
Exactly. Well, you can't demonstrate the paradox in reality. You can only conceptualize it, right?
Which requires
you can make it up. You can make it up, but yeah. Well, not make it up. In your idea, there could be a paradox, but it's a made-up idea, right? Like cosmology, right? Black hole, there's a paradox because once you reach in the center, it's mathematically infinity, right? So that's a paradox. But in reality, we know there's no such thing as black holes, right? It's a made-up concept in which a paradox resides. I would put it that way. Isn't that what they say? Mathematics breaks down at a black hole.
I think there was plenty of breaking down before they ever got to black holes.
I don't think they say not math as a whole, but relativity.
I mean, that paradox thing kind of reminds me a bit of like the idea of God or people that are not God, like separate entities, like the set contained within itself. Like if God is the set of everything, is God contained and it's within its own set kind of thing? Like is God in the set that it created? And that's why I brought in the holography, like the holography where each part contains the whole. And like I said before, one would think that that's a complete contradiction, but I actually think it's the nature of reality. Like we are all the whole, we are all it, we are the source, but we are also a part, just like holograms work. So, I mean, there's certain things that can seem paradoxical from one viewpoint, but from a higher level, it's actually not a paradox. It's just consciousness's ability to split itself and remain like at its ultimate essence. Like I do think at our ultimate essence, each one of us contains the whole, but we are a part, just like a hologram, that each refracted split part of light contains the whole as well. But it just kind of reminds me in terms of that paradox with the sets. But that's because it's like trying to break down the logic and using like separation statements. You know, this is a set, that's not a set, to try to actually explain something that is a totality. It just kind of links in with that in my mind.
Yeah, I don't think it's a paradox.
Like there's another option, right? Meaning there could be even another option and another one, right? And like especially with something like God, that would be considered unknowable, right? So there must be tons of options.
I don't think it's unknowable. I think it's who you are. I think we can all know it.
No, all the attributes of God, you know, like how he created what he created and all that.
I don't think it's a paradox or a problem if you're allowed to step outside of the system. So I think Jeremy kind of pointed towards this. I forget what word he used. I think it started with an E or something. But basically, if you're the one constructing the parameters of the issue or the thing that you're going about, then you're deciding what's the rules for what's going to end up determining whether or not a thing is a paradox. If you're allowed to step outside of those rules, you don't have to deal with the paradox anymore. So, Gio, what you're saying, like, it can be true, if you're allowed to step outside of what we know, like physically, or what we experience physically with our own senses here, what you're saying can still be true, even though we can't detect it, right? Because what you're saying would be from the perspective of outside our rule set.
Well, you can answer that.
Well, I mean, that was kind of in the range of what I was alluding to a degree. Yeah, that from within the set, it can look like something, but from without of it, you can see the larger picture. Yeah.
I said we could break our own convention, but if this whole thing is God's convention, I'm not sure he can even break it. He can't make a parrot, like he can't make A and not A. Like I don't even think God could do that. I don't know what that would look like. I doubt he
Yeah,
could. Like I think God's still bound by the laws of logic.
I would argue that it's not a matter of can or can't, or it's not a matter of being bound or not bound. I think it's a matter of just understanding what God is. If you take the viewpoint that God simply is, and that God is absolute, God is truth, God is what is, then it's not a matter of can or can't. It's are you or are you not? Is it or is it not? I had a discussion somewhat related or similar just recently about like the concept of like somebody saying like God cannot lie. Stating it like that makes it seem like some sort of a lack of power, or like that it has to do with power, but it's not really about power. It's God simply is what is, and you don't make the statement a dog can't not dog, as if there's some sort of lack of power in the dog to not dog. Well, it's not a concern. It's not even a consideration. The dog is a dog. The dog dogs. You don't ever worry about the dog can't not dog. And so if you take that and apply it to the concept of a God, God is what is, and it's not a matter of can't or can. It's just a matter of what is and what is not.
But God would have to be outside of the set, no? If we take Russell's diagram.
I would agree outside of our set, like our human set. I would agree that God is outside of our human set. I think that the Creator created our set, and I don't think that He's bound by it or within it. I think that it is of Him or from Him.
Yeah, like linking this, like if God was like R, which is they call it the Russell set and the Russell thing. So if R is the set of all sets, but R is not in a set because it's a set of all sets. So it's like if God is the ultimate, is God in a set? Like is that ultimate label for the ultimate set, is that also in a set? And it
No,
like
there's
reaches,
only one.
yeah, it reaches a peak where it's like, okay, no, there is not more than one God, or as it were, or there's not more than one, like the R set, like the Russell set, I think is, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of like loosely linking that to like a, thinking of a creator, but I'm just linking it in the way that consciousness kind of breaks down. And I think that's sort of in a way what it's linking to. Like this little phrase right here. Okay, the Russell set says, if R is not a member of itself, meaning that the Russell set is not a member of the set, it's the name used for the whole set, then its definition entails that it is a member of itself, because it's saying R is a set of all sets, therefore R would be in a set. Yet, if it is a member of itself, then it is not a member of itself, since it is the set of all sets that are not members of themselves.
Yo, do you guys remember when I used to say you can't have a law of non-contradiction violation and omnivore would try using the word heterological? This is it. This is it. This is that exact thing. You guys don't remember that?
I'm kind of with Jeremy here, because if I think of it like, I know this probably wouldn't be equivalent, but if I think of like a video game, right? When the developer creates rules in the video game, anytime he steps in there, he is bound by the system he created.
Yeah, that's kind of an analogy too, yeah. Like if you're saying if the creator of the game was the ultimate set of all sets, but then when he plays the game, he has to abide by the rules. Like
he has to abide by it, yeah.
No, I disagree with that 100%. 100% disagree. Strongly disagree.
How so?
I mean, well,
you'd have to get into the code to cheat. Like if you make
the game, if you're the developer, you have the code. You made the code.
Yeah,
but the developer, no matter what he does within the game, he created the rules to allow himself to do those things.
Well, that's true, yeah. If you're talking about he has to stay within the game, then you're absolutely correct. But like I was saying before, if you allow yourself to step outside of the rule set, then there's nothing that they can't do with the game anymore. They're allowed to do whatever they want.
What would it be if I just changed the rules for just me? That'd be called just breaking the rules. I feel like if I can go into a video game and just break the rules for just me, Well, all you other guys can only jump 3 feet high in the game. Now I'm jumping 10 feet high. Like, you guys
It's
suck.
almost
It depends.
it's almost like you need to try in nature to it, right? To make it make sense.
Did you
Well,
put
this
into
is
the
why-
code that developers can jump 10 feet high and other people can't?
Yeah, see, this is where the axiom comes in, because in the Russell's paradox thing, he doesn't just leave it at that paradox and say, "Oh, I don't." The guy just doesn't know logic. That's not where it was left. Like, that's a known thing. But in the type theory, there's these axioms that are needed in order to define things, and that's kind of how they work it through, basically. And then all these different theories and different guys using axioms that are needed to then try to break down the details of the paradox. I'm trying to link how would that link to the video game thing. Like, if you made the video game, you make the whole game. And then after you make the game, you don't use any cheat codes to get into the back code. You then put the game in. Now you're playing the game with the rules. I don't know. Yeah, but if you then had some axioms that you could utilize from, then you then can start to define things in a different way, which is the idea of being inside of it or outside of it.
Look, this is not hard, right? You think of it logically. You have to be outside. God would have to be outside of the set. Like, how can you think of it? How can you create something within you? Like, where are you going to create it? In your stomach, in your leg? You have to create something outside of you, right?
The creator is always outside of the set. You
could do it in your
something
mind.
can't be of itself.
You could do it in your mind, actually. You can create something in your mind. We do it every night. It's called dreams.
Okay, then we're a dream. That's a different story.
No, I'm just saying you gave us a false thing there because
That's not creation, though.
Yeah, that's not creation. You're hallucinating or whatever. You're not creating anything.
What if
Half
it's
the
like
time you're not
Inception?
even in control of it.
Says
Okay,
you.
but
I mean,
there is a lucid dreams where you are in control. I don't know. I think you're creating this thing when you dream.
I don't know. Maybe that's I don't know. I'm talking about like actual creation. Like I get what you're saying, but I think it's a different.
You don't think this could all be happening inside the mind of God right now?
Yeah, like I said, if we're a dream, yeah, then your thing could be true. But that means we're a dream. We're not actual physical beings.
But that still doesn't answer, at least not what I was saying. If it was a dream inside of a creator, that set of circumstances is still outside of our reality. Therefore, it is outside our rule set.
Hold on, wait a second, Jeremy. Did you just say it's possible that we're just a brain in a vat?
I would agree with Bob
No, I
there.
said inside the mind of God.
Inside a mind in a vat? Okay.
No,
I do think this is linked. Go ahead.
He's talking about, is our reality happening inside the mind of God or the creator of our reality? Okay. And I was just responding that even if that's the case, that scenario of God thinking about a thing that becomes our reality is still outside of our reality and therefore outside of our rule set.
Yeah, that's the creation part, right? You have to create something outside of yourself, right? Unless of a dream, like Jeremy said. So he would have to be, maybe God is the only one that's allowed to have, maybe that is the paradox. Maybe God is the paradox.
I guess more what I'm saying is that something can't be created from within itself. So like whenever you create a video game, and I think the other guy, I don't know who it was, but he basically touched on this. Like whenever you make a video game, you make the rules and you can only do what's within those rules. No matter how much you play that video game, how hard you play that video game, how well or poorly you play that video game, you'll never be able to make that video game with that video game. And even if you designed the video game to be able to make itself, you're still admitting that you had to make the tools within the game, and therefore it was made from without the tools that are within the game, therefore without the rules of the game. So no matter what you do or say, you still end up outside of the rule set of the thing that you made.
Eight Ball posted something interesting. Humans create humans inside them every day. That's a good one. But really, are you really creating that? No. Maybe you participated for a few minutes. Maybe longer than that if you're a stud, but that's about it. Everything else happens without you.
I've never resonated with the idea that the source of all creation or creator, that it can actually create anything outside of itself. Like, how would that even happen? Like, if you're, let's say you're infinite light, frequency, consciousness, you're just, omnipotent, omnipresent, you could create as much of a separation as you could, but ultimately that would still be from your own energy, your own light, your own vibration and frequency. It would have to be. Unless there's actually another dude out there, unless there's 2 gods or 10 gods or 1,000 gods. If there's one, it has to all be created within itself.
I wasn't necessarily disagreeing with that.
which would mean that the source is the only thing that's not in a set. Like it is the set, which is kind of that idea of the ultimate set. Like because this whole thing is just saying that R, like that set, is just a set of all sets. So it's just first defining that, and then there's a paradox that comes out of it. If you don't really define it that way, if you just say that there is something that's not in a set, which would be the ultimate, and then there's just a bunch of sets within that are all in their own sets.
It's a set of all sets that are not within a set specifically.
Yeah, like God is not in a set. It's not just a part of some system, or it's not just like a part of a group. It's its own thing. But then it's able to create all these other sets from itself, which would then, to me, it'd still be creating from itself. It's just able to, like, just like with holograms where you can split light, and interferometry does that too. It's essentially what interferometry is. It's like able to split the light in that way. So it's like God is the ultimate light that's splitting its light into all these different sets, all these different beings and experiences.
Isn't R defined as a set in the argument?
I was going to say, if we're talking still with like the mathematical terms, you don't need more than one thing. A set can be one thing.
I mean, infinity just basically solves it. It solves the entire problem. We just don't generally allow infinity. I would guess or say that it's probably because like infinity isn't technically within our own rule set, and so we don't generally allow infinity. But if you're allowing the rules outside of our rule set anyway, infinity answers the paradox, and you're done.
Well, set theory is crazy. The set theory, not the set theory that paradox is from, but the set theory we use now is crazy because you can have bigger infinities. Like, I don't know about you guys, that doesn't make any sense to me. That is just incoherent. And they say there's a mathematical proof for it too, but I don't care, dude. If you have an infinite things, you don't have anything that's bigger than that because forever, because they're both infinite.
Yeah, like
I heard that nonsense too, Jeremy.
Like 2 inches isn't bigger than 1 inch, right?
Wait, what?
There's like infinite sets in there. Right. I'm sorry, like 1 inch isn't bigger than 2 inches, right? There's infinite sets in between 1 inch and 2 inch.
Yeah, they have a mathematical formula for what's in between for all the real numbers and then all the I don't know. There's 2 different sets of numbers, real numbers and some other numbers, and they have a mathematical little thing where you can prove that one set's bigger than the other, but they're both infinite though. So like your mathematical proof's just fucking wrong.
Like if there's an infinite set between 1 and an infinite set between 2, then the infinite set between all the way from the 0 to 2 is bigger than infinite set.
1 and 2. There's an infinite amount of numbers. Yeah, if there's an infinite amount of numbers between 1 and 2, and there's just an infinite amount of whole numbers or even numbers, pick another set of numbers. Neither of them's bigger because they both just go forever. So you can't have one bigger than the other.
Yeah, but logically speaking, if you think of the sets as containers, if one container is within the other, then the one on the outside has to be bigger than the one on the inside.
Negative. They're both infinite.
Well, you're saying the whole number isn't larger than a fraction. So if I have an infinite set of whole numbers, that's not larger than the infinite set of fractions.
It's not what's larger; it's what's infinity.
It's infinitely larger, right? If you have a container inside of a container, whichever one is on the outside, if it's infinite, it keeps going, and the one that's on the inside keeps going. And so, I mean, if you found out the difference between the two at the start, then you could say that there's that difference. Otherwise, it's infinitely bigger. I don't know if that really, maybe not, but like the one on the outside has to be larger. It would be a matter of determining how much larger. If one started at 3 and one started at 2, and they both go on for infinity, at 3, whichever one started at 3 is still bigger as it's going into infinity.
It's never fractals.
Yeah, it can be mathematically worked out.
Yeah, that mathematical workout is bullshit though, because there's no way you can have an infinite amount of things, and I have an infinite amount of things, and you're saying you have more infinity than I do. Well, that doesn't even make sense.
Jeremy, like, it's not fair to say that mathematical thing is bullcrap. Anything involving infinity within our reality is automatically bullcrap from the start. You don't get to say, let me have a little bit of infinity for my statement, and then you can't use any for yours, because it's bullcrap.
No, we can use infinity.
As soon as you mention infinity, it's bullcrap.
No, we can use infinity and go with the idea that it's forever and eternal,
not
and
in reality.
It keeps going and never stops. We can use that. We can go with that, but you can't have one of them be bigger than the other one, because
you got to go into a model first.
You don't get to set those rules, though. It's already outside the bounds of the rules. It's already bullcrap. You don't get to say, I get my infinity bullcrap, and you can't have your infinity bullcrap. That's not fair.
The way I think of it, Jeremy, is it's not that one's one's more. It's that the way I think of it is one started before the other. So if we both started counting to infinity, but I start first, mine would be bigger than yours because I'm ahead of you. But that doesn't mean that the end goal would ever be more than you.
There's no end. There's no end.
Well, that's why I say in the way fractals are. If you have them start at a certain point, you can have like fractal within a fractal within a fractal, and the little one in the inside is like an infinitely expanding thing, and then the one outside of it is also infinitely expanding, and the one outside of that is infinitely expanding. And if they're all starting at a different point, you could have like multiple infinities all within a smaller version of itself that are all expanding towards some larger ultimate infinity. The way fractals expand.
That's why they say space expands, right? Because they can't say like, oh, it ends here. Because okay, then what's after that? Right?
But like if you took the one container is 2.1 repeating forever, and the other container is 3.1 repeating forever. They're both infinite. They both repeat forever. But you know that the 3.1 started higher, and therefore, so long as there's somehow no speed change somehow, then the one that started larger will always and infinitely be larger.
Gets into the Trinity. If you divide infinity,
Dude, just listen to what you're saying, bro. You're saying we both have an infinite amount of things, and you're gonna have more than me, bro. That's crazy.
Well, yeah, it's only crazy if you demand that the infinity be obtained right now. Neither of us has the infinity. We can't have the infinity. And if we are going into infinity and one started first and the speeds are the same, then one has more than the other as they go towards infinity. But the thing about infinity is you never get there. So your part where you can't have one more than the other, we never get to that point because we never get to infinity. Your thing would be true if we ever actually reached infinity.
what do you get when you divide infinity by infinity?
1.
And you get infinity.
You get undefined, sir.
If the Father
This is
divided
how
himself,
they came up with
and you get
dark
the Son,
holes and
right? If the Father divided himself, you get the Son. They're both God, though.
no, this is all mathematics. All this nonsense comes out of them doing theoretical physics using math instead of doing actual physics. That's where all this nonsense of their cosmology comes from. Them mathing it out instead of working it out like with actual
In
stuff.
reality, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the disconnect is here, I see. That's the disconnect is the reality part.
I was going to comment on what you said, Lion. Why would God be a man or a father? Like if God created all this stuff like insects and animals and humans, and if you think there's other realms and other dimensions and other beings, why would it pick like a human man to be? Like it seems like it would transcend all things human. It would transcend just being a man.
We were made in his image. He wasn't made in our image.
What about the moose and the buffalo and the deer and all the other things? I mean, those are made in God's image too.
In a way, they might have an essence of the creator because everything came from source, right? But we happen to have like his image, like in form, like in our. I don't know why. It's not something I can answer, but
doesn't that just seem like a human centric assumption to think that God is just what they are?
Yeah,
because like no matriarchy has ever existed to like last. Is that what you mean? Like because humans have figured out like matriarchies don't work, therefore it's probably a patriarchy.
It sounds human centric, right? Like why would you personify him or anthropomorphize him? It sounds like something that we created, right, in our minds to try to put him in a box. But that's not the case. It's actually the other way around. He created us to look like him. We didn't create him to look like us.
And you know that how?
But theologically,
you realize
because of men who wrote it, who are doing the same thing, who are just saying that the God is a man because they wrote it, and then they say it's God's
Well,
word because
there's more to it than that.
Christian belief, though. That's not what we believe. You believe that, but the Christian people don't believe that it was just any man, just like wrote something down.
But it was a man who wrote something down, right? A human being with blood and things going through their veins and a pen in their hand.
Not the 10 Commandments on stone inside the Ark of the Covenant. But I mean, how much of the worldview are you going to accept? We're
not the only ones, though. It seems to like if you believe in other intelligent entities besides humans, they also have that bipedal form. Right? There's myriad of angels. Now some are exotic and abstract, but a lot of the angels are bipedal. They have, an upper torso. They have 2 legs, 2 hands, 2 arms, a head, and they're vertical. They're upright. That form seems to be primordial, going back to the source. The source actually has that form, and I know it's mind-boggling because it's like, what could the creator have a form at all? You know what I mean? People want to say he can't have a form. He's ineffable, and ineffable. That's what SE says.
We are the form. We're it right here. We're what's being formed.
According to Jeremy, we could be a dream.
I mean, if everything is light, if everything is light and vibration, and ether and at different frequencies, and if God is light, then we are its body vibrating. We are that God source light vibrating in all these different forms. We are the light.
But I didn't say it.
Amen.
I didn't say a dream, though. I said in the mind of God. That could be multiple different things. You can be awake and create something in your mind. I can picture a pink elephant right now in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm just messing with you, Jeremy.
Yeah, you just leave it off the important part of your belief to make it sound ridiculous.
Yeah, but
Well,
a lot
the
of
problem with
scientists think
calling
we're in
God
a
a
simulation.
And it kind of reminds me of the Morpheus quote in The Matrix of him asking Neo what's real, and if it's what your senses can feel, then that's just electrical signals by your brain. So, I mean, we very well could just be hooked up to a machine or in someone else's dream.
Earlier, somebody said, "Well, in reality, what's
In reality?
Yeah, what's reality though?"
Local, everything local, right? Everything around you that you
find
can.
ourselves.
That's what I know. Who was saying that? Oh, Tor was saying that yesterday, right? Local versus global. In philosophy, you have different classifications of reality, and it includes conceptual reality. You have perceptual, conceptual, and physical reality. All still reality, part of reality.
I think conceptual reality might be a bit of a oxymoron.
Well, you could say that, but love is conceptual, but it's very much real. Same thing with sadness. Even though people can try to reduce it to nothing more than neurochemical processes, but I don't think it's just pure chemical either. And then you have like numbers and letters and language. That's all conceptual, dude.
Yeah,
When I was specifically talking about in reality and locally, I was talking about like the earth and stuff. Like this would be a metaphysical talk, right? When you invoke God and whatnot.
The question is why? Why would a God create you?
Because it's interesting.
Scripturally,
For entertainment? For
no,
entertainment?
it's not that he needs relationship, it's that he wants relationship.
Are you talking about from a biblical thing? Are you asking like from a biblical, or are you just talking about in general? SE.
I'm saying in general, like, and anybody, like either biblical or non-biblical, like why? What? Like there has to be a reason, right? Can we all agree on that?
Yeah, just from a logical standpoint, it's better to have something than nothing.
What about one reason? If there's one source, SE, and it's essentially just one thing, what if it wants, like Lion just said, relationship? What if it wants to have the experience of relationship? Because if you were, imagine you're just this beaming ball of light, love, light, you're just chilling. You're still alone, technically. So if you could then create, humans and men and women and dogs and cats and all these things that you can snuggle up in bed with, all these different, now you have relationship. Would that be one impetus that now you have billions of relationships to enjoy rather than just being alone?
I get that, but then all the wars and suffering and and abductions and murders, and of course there's good in that too, right? Births and happy families and picnics. So all that would be, I mean, I don't know.
The paradox is in, you could see the qualities of God in man. That's the paradox, because when he created Adam, right? He said he created Adam in his image, which is that right there. It sounds paradoxical. And then the fact that he thought that man would benefit with having a companion, that shows something about himself and us.
Okay, let's explore that idea.
It would be good that man would not be alone.
Okay, but let's explore that idea. What you said and what Gio said. He wants to experience things, right? Okay, as cruel as it might sound, he might want to experience a child being born with cancer, how that feels like one time, right? I get that. Okay, you want to see how that, as sick as it might sound, right? But would you do it repeatedly?
Oh man, that's not.
It seems to.
That's not.
You're doing it all over the world. all the time.
Yep.
Just
Well, you know,
There are
just the way it's
certain,
framed. Hold on, just the way
Wow.
it's framed to begin with kind of seems like antithetical to what the Bible might say is God or whatever people idealize God as. Because we're here, talking about how like hunger is not of God because it's something that makes you weak and you have to give in to hunger. But God's this supreme being who can never feel hunger. So if you frame it as like something that's of God and it's not just a necessity or some kind of like undeniable outcome, then it's like he wants these things in a way that somebody you would think of somebody as like wanting something just for the frivolous experience of it, which would be antithetical to the supreme being that would be weak enough to have a want. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well said. I never heard it quite like that. Yeah, you need a. How could you want a want? You're such a supreme or a need.
Yeah, but
That's
that would
pretty
be the
well
point.
said.
But if it doesn't have any wants, maybe it wants to feel like what it's like to want things. So then it's trying to experience something different than itself. Like if it can never die, it wants to have death, to experience death. If it doesn't suffer, it wants to experience suffering. If it's not separate,
Yeah,
it wants
but
to experience separation. Like it would want to experience everything that it's not able to in its ununified state.
Okay,
my
I can
problem
buy
is
that.
wherever God is chilling at, if all these things aren't already around him, like what kind of imagination does he have to be like to create the concepts of everything bad we have and say that he wants to experience it?
No, the thing is, I get what Gio's saying. I get what you're saying. But my problem is, okay, you want to experience something, right? But over and over again, like you know what it feels like to be shot. You know what it feels like for a bomb to explode on you, right? But what you get? Is God like addicted to this now? It's like a trip
no,
for him.
see, I don't like the way that you're framing it. God
No, I'm
doesn't
sorry,
desire.
bro,
He,
but
he, he
I
doesn't
mean,
desire. Well, he doesn't desire death. That's not something he
then why does
desires
he
at
keep
all.
doing it over and over and over again?
You're assuming that because there's death and evil in the world, then he must want that or desire that. That's not the biblical narrative at all.
But it's being created every day. So
Yeah,
God's
because
creating it with the light,
there,
the
there,
sound, the electrostatic bonds of the matter, that the person of the body who's suffering, he's creating all of it.
Well, they attribute that to
there's
man. Don't they
inevitable.
attribute that to the fall of man? Like the weakness of man creates all that. It's never God's fault.
Right. There's due to logic, right? There's inevitable necessities, like inevitable consequences that have to happen when, like in the logical sequence of events, right? So death and suffering are an inevitable consequence due to actions that were made in the past, due to free will being a thing. Not because God desired it, but because there's literally no other option. That is the best of all possibilities, the best of all worlds is the world that we live in right now, due to the consequences that occurred.
You're leaving out the part that God created the rule set that you're talking about.
Right. No, I'm not leaving that out. I'm considering that God's in his infinite wisdom, he already took into consideration all the variables, right? And in his infinite wisdom, he created the best of all possible worlds that we live in right now. And due to free will, right? Free will actually being taken advantage of, somebody in the past, and that somebody we know as Hasatan, took rebellion into as a potential. He took that advantage. And now we have death.
But don't you see that people get criticized it because it's like, okay, so we can't explain all the bad things, so God can't be bad, so we're just going to say it's the free will of man and man's choice and some kind of evil influence that made this free choice thing happen, and then we can explain all the bad things and not attribute it to God.
Well, the problem is your premise then.
Even the free will argument, I don't think is a viable out because in order to establish free will, it's within the rule set that God created. So what I am allowed to choose for myself, God gave me the rule set to choose from. So to say free will is like it's man's choice. Well, God wanted the rule set that we could choose to do bad things.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. I already conceded that point, but you have to understand the other option are automatons without free will. And he, in his infinite wisdom, even though that was an inevitable potential that existed in the parameters, in the code of existence itself, that at some point, some being, due to free will, would take advantage of that inertial potential of rebellion, which is exactly what happened. But hold on. But he already took into consideration the potential of rebellion being a possibility due to that's literally that's what free will is, right? Choosing to either love him or deny him. Hold on. But even with that potential, he already encoded into reality a process for redemption and restoration, which he's in the process of right now.
Yeah, you have to grant that is a possibility, right? And that is a possibility, right? Just to like there could be multiple explanations. There could even be one that we don't know that could be logical, but you have to agree with Lions that could be one of the possibility, right?
Well, that makes me feel like Go ahead.
I agree. I agree. It could be a possibility, but what it sounds like Lion is saying is because of free will, right? It's not that God wants these things, it's that people took advantage of the system. And what I'm saying is free will can exist in many different systems. Free will is just your ability to express what you want to do within the system you're in. So he could have created a whole different system without bad things, and it would still be free will for me to choose what I'm doing within that system.
Negative.
Wait, how do you know that?
You're
How do you
assuming.
know that?
You're assuming that. But if in his infinite
No, that just
wisdom,
logically follows.
No, in his infinite wisdom, if that was the possibility, he would have chose that possibility.
It logically follows that you could create the universe in a different way than it is. That logically follows.
No,
You think
if
you
you're
could have
gonna
done a
say
better
what
job?
he's saying is possible, then what I'm saying is also possible.
Right? You think that you could have done a better job than the infinite wise creator of heaven and earth.
No, that's not what I'm
you're
saying.
going
I'm
against
saying if he has
logic.
the power to. No, I'm just saying if we're gonna go down this logically, if he has the power to create any system he wants, it's fine if it's this one. But the only thing is, most of us would say that Lion needs to concede that God wanted it this way.
That's the ultimate thing right there.
I already conceded that he wanted it
I
the
don't think
way
you
that
said anything different.
Yeah, with the potential for rebellion already encoded. I already conceded that. That doesn't negate my point. That even though that is a true possibility in the potential that he created, right? In the reality that he created, that potential for rebellion was there due to free will, right?
You're trying to give
wanted
God
it that
some
way.
out, though, by saying potential.
That
There's
doesn't
no
mean
out
that there
either.
was that there was another better way. He didn't have to create that potential in reality. You're saying that no, there could have been another better way. That this isn't the best of all possible worlds. No,
I
that
didn't
there was
say
another
better. I didn't
better
say better.
possible world.
Hold
I
on, is
never
it
said better.
possible that there's things that God cannot imagine? Is that a possibility?
If we're gonna sit here, anything's possible for us to imagine. Yeah, that anything's possible.
Lion,
Right,
do you think
right.
every
And if
single
you're
one of
saying
us?
he couldn't imagine it, that's a weakness, right?
How
Couldn't
is that
every
a
single one
weakness?
of us have made a better world without suffering? Everyone in here could imagine one that's better than this.
Okay, Gio, the problem with that is the perspective that you're saying it from. If you're gonna, so like one side is saying that God chose to make this, and it was the best of all the choices he had. The other side is saying, if he had the choice, why didn't he make another one? Or I can think of a better one he could have made. If you start from the premise of there is a creator that has basically infinite power, infinite wisdom, you've already started from the premise that you don't have the perspective appropriate to understand all the variables with creation of the universe like he does, because he created you. So you don't have the perspective to determine whether or not there was a better alternative. And that's not me making that claim. That's just the logic that you have to follow. If you're going to agree to start from the premise of infinite wisdom and infinite power, you're also automatically agreeing to the premise that you're not in a position to properly judge whether or not he should have done a different thing.
Well, when you think about like just our world and what we know of our world, and if we can think of a better world, would it be a world where there is no death ever and everything always lives eternally? I mean, with the system wouldn't even work that way. Things have to die and things have to be born. It has to
Better
have that
according to who?
start to it.
According to
If
him.
everything
Yeah,
lived,
I never said
if nothing ever died, that it would be a better world because then it would be overcrowded and the system wouldn't work. I mean, life lives on death, right? It lives off death.
Yeah, but you don't have infinite
We don't
wisdom,
even-
right?
You don't even have to wonder whether or not the system would work. If somebody says they could create a better world without death, without whatever, then the question is better according to who? Better according to you, someone who's inside the current system. So you would have to be able to step outside the current system and see the other choices that we don't see because we're inside the system for us to know whether or not the other ones were better. We're not in that position if you accept that we're inside the system that somebody else made. So
Right, but a system where nothing ever dies is ridiculous on its face, right?
You can't demonstrate that it's better. You can only claim on personal basis that it's better, which is fine. You can absolutely do that. But it's not an objective standard then that you're appealing to. You're just saying you think it would be better, and that's a nothing claim as far as objectivity or actual reality. There's no way to actually demonstrate it would be better.
I don't think it would be better. If nothing ever died, it wouldn't be better. It wouldn't even work. It would be ridiculous.
In the world that nothing dies, is there still reproduction?
There could still be reproduction.
Yeah, I'm just
there can be
asking
anything you want. You're
perspective. There's
imagining
like
the
so
world.
many. Yeah, there's so many avenues that we could go. You know what I mean? Like what?
We could explore them if you want to, but my problem is saying what's better or not better is a logic that comes from this system that we're in currently.
Yeah, right. But that's why I already laid the disclaimer that you have to be able to put yourself in the creator's shoes, which none of us can, right? Metaphorically speaking, and be able to evaluate every single variable. You have to factor in every single variable in your conclusion, which we're not able to do that. He did that, and he found this to be the best of all possible worlds.
But aren't you putting
there's a verse
by even saying what he wants or doesn't want or what happened or any of that? Aren't you already assuming?
No, because if you take the Hebrew Christian perspective, I'm giving you what the scriptures say, so I'm conveying to you his own words, right? Now, unless you don't think the scriptures are
but that's an
valid.
assumption, just like saying that we could know what all possibilities are. I mean, it's like you can't do both.
But what if we want to hear?
It's not purely an assumption though. There's inductive, deductive, abductive reasoning to my conclusion regarding my premise and the cue that follows. Like I can walk you through it. But hold on, let me just read this one verse. Isaiah 45:9. Woe to him who strives with him who formed him, a pot among earthen pots. Does the clay say to him who forms it, what are you making? Or your work has no handles. Like, who are we to question the creator who created us, right? What perspective do we have? What vantage point do we have? We have none. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to ask, like, what if we wanted to hear what you think? Like, what is your perspective on it? Like, Lion, like you yourself. Like, not anything to do with these books or these things these other guys write. I know that you put a lot of weight in those, but what if we want to know what you think about it? Like, you yourself. You just defer to them?
Frankly, what I think is irrelevant. I'm just a man. I'm a mortal.
What if we want to hear what you think?
Well, I struggle with a lot of these concepts my whole life. I've wrestled with them. You know, Israel wrestles with God. Some of us, we get upset. We can get angry with God. But at the end of the day, he's God. Whether we like the choices that he made for us or the reality that he made for us or not, that's, you know, we're wrestling with the creator of heaven and earth.
You know what I think is it's the only logical and coherent worldview. So, yeah.
Like, I don't want to die. I hate the fact that I got to die, right?
Yeah, it's a scary thought. I find it weird to say, like, who are we to ask questions when God gave me this realm and this logic to ask questions in the first place?
Yeah, no, definitely you can ask them, but who are we to say we're going to know the answer to it?
And also, I don't think asking questions who are we to say we know what God thinks at all? Who are we to say we know what God thinks in any way?
Well, he would have to be revelatory, right, if he's God.
He would have to be the ultimate source for intelligibility if he's God.
If you have knowledge, then you would be like, oh, obviously God revealed something, right?
Like, God has characteristics. If there's a one God above all, there's going to be immutable universal characteristics.
For all I know, God is outside of this system. He's a dickhead. I don't know.
There's a difference between asking as an inquisition or an inquiry and asking as an accusation. I think that all or most of us probably understand the difference between asking a question because you're seeking knowledge about the thing, and asking a question as a roundabout way to accuse someone of something. One, if you take the position of you are inside the system that the creator created, one of those is a problem to direct towards the creator. One of those is not a problem. If you're just wanting knowledge, that's not a problem. If you're attempting to accuse based on your perspective, which is inherently limited of necessity based on the premise you started with, then that's a problem. Because you already admitted by saying that by acknowledging they're the creator and you're the creation, you already acknowledge that you don't have the position or the ability to adjust for all the variables or count for all the variables to begin with. If you don't want to take that position, that's fine. But if you do take that position, you're sticking yourself there. It's nobody else's fault. You put yourself there to take that position.
And I just want to say, I think the conversation took a bit of a left turn, because when I initially commented, it wasn't, I never mentioned it was a better system. I was just going down lines of logic to say there could be other systems that explore, well, quote unquote, free will. I never said it would be better.
Yeah, true. That's true.
How do you know there's not other ones, like infinite other ones, for example?
Dude, if you can make one of these,
how they say there's like infinite. They say there's like infinite balls out in space, but if it's not that, what if there's just infinite other worlds, like literally infinite of them? And this is just one of them. And even though it does have suffering and weirdness, maybe there's others that are way more blissful. Maybe there's others that are darker.
Yeah, I was way back in the conversation. I think when I came in, you were talking more about God.
I don't know. Am I breaking up?
Real quick, I was just going to say, I brought up I posted that video about the Mandelbrot set. You guys were talking about set theory when I was listening back a little bit, but yeah, but like Mandelbrot set is thought to be kind of like an infinite set of variations on the whole. And so if you saw everything as God, like if everything is the being of God, you know, trying to figure itself out, all of the way this conversation is going would make a lot more sense, rather than having it be some personification of God that's making decisions that are, you know, unanswerable. It's a paradox, you know. If everything is God, at the very least, even if there's an outside God, everything is God trying to figure itself out, then that paradox right now would explain all the paradoxical conversations we're having.
Wait, what are you confused about? Because I'm not confused about God. Yeah, well then that's what I'm saying. You're saying, like, because are you saying God doesn't know things? He doesn't know everything? So therefore...
No, I'm saying if everything is God, you know, at the very least, regardless if there's an outside God creator or whatever, then there's going to be contradictions and things about, like, okay, like your body. Your body has cells that die off and cells that rejuvenate, but we're not saying, oh, it's like, you know, my will that I let cells in my body die, and, you know, all of like the choices that I'm making about the way my body functions. It's just the way that my body functions without my decision to have that be the case. It's an organism. You can't say that's a choice on everything that happens within an organism. In the same way, everything might be that organism we call God.
Okay, what makes knowledge possible?
Like as if it's knowable.
A human,
Yeah.
a human brain.
A brain?
Yep. That's
But
what knowledge.
like,
A human has some knowledge. Like a deer doesn't probably have very much knowledge. Different
but-
type of brain. A rock probably doesn't. So yeah, human brain.
so the God is separated itself into a bunch of human brains. Is that what? And then all the knowledge is in the human brains.
You just
Or just, that's a knowable, and all of the human brains and everything that is in this world makes up what we call God.
I think you should rephrase the question, Tor, as what ultimately makes knowledge possible, because I would have to give credit to Gio that the brain is one of the contingent factors for what makes knowledge possible. When we talk about contingency, but
Yeah,
you
I
have
get
to also
that.
add
Yeah, he
everything.
is right.
You
Yeah,
have to add everything else too.
I didn't think we were gonna just go with that contingent entity.
Well, I thought Tor, were you asking in a world where everything is God, like the world where Dave's proposing or could be a possibility? I thought you were asking, okay, in that world, what makes knowledge possible?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You were just asking in general?
No, I was asking specifically in in New Perspectives perspective.
Yeah,
Okay, so
like,
in
well, it's
that
not my
world, what
perspective,
makes
it's just
knowledge
a possibility. It's not like what I believe. I'm just saying that's an option, and I don't know the answer, but that does make sense if it is that way. To me,
What
at
if?
least it can make sense.
Yeah. What if?
What would make the body possible? Like knowledge,
what if
do we attribute knowledge to like even like the single cell organism has knowledge? And it would, right? Because it's so complex, and there would be knowledge there. Like what makes the single cell organism possible to begin with is more the question, right?
Animals have memory and logic.
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. Like so we have a system called logic that we can work through this system and find if it's coherent, right? So we have these three things, right? Knowledge, uniformity, and we have knowledge, uniformity, and these laws of logic that we're going to use, right? And they're just given, right? So we would use the laws of logic at this point to make sure it's a coherent, worldview in the end, that these three things can exist in that worldview, right?
Well, what I was saying is that the paradox would make a lot of sense. Like the paradox is unanswerable because that's what it is. Even if you go with the idea that paradoxes don't exist or whatever, but it's something that is unable to define. Like, what does your nose smell like? Right? You don't know what your nose smells like because your nose is the thing that smells, right? So, like, if the organism is God, there's no way to know, how this thing came about because it is what we are, and you can't look into the past. It's impossible. You can't know these things. You can speculate all you want. You can even believe all you want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's the answer. Or if it's completely a different answer, you wouldn't know.
Why would you make the premise that we are it?
Well, even the Bible says God's within everything, right? So the Bible's saying that at least that, right?
Not really.
It's a very specific.
God's not within everything. We weren't made from God.
Dude, you keep saying this. The scripture is very, very specific about the separation between the creature and the creator. It's like extremely specific about it.
Well, yeah, but why would we have this conversation if that's already well known?
Yeah, but saying one part of the Bible says that God's like within everything is called cherry picking.
I'm not even trying to argue for that using scripture. I'm just saying that's what, if I didn't even know anything about scripture, and I was just pondering about, the beginning of time or how everything came about, that would make the most sense that everything is this one organism experiencing itself, not that there was a decision made to break itself apart and experience itself because it had some wants that it had, couldn't satisfy or whatever. I mean, that could be the case, but why would I think that should be the case,
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So in causality, we have something, I forget how it's phrased. It's like the effect cannot precede the cause, right? Creation being the effect of the prime mover, the uncaused cause. So creation, including the earth and us and everything in it, cannot be the cause, cannot be the creator. Right? Creation cannot be the creator. It's illogical.
Could I ask a question mostly of the Christians or the Abrahamic guys?
Real quick before you change the subject, you said that's illogical, but the creator created itself. Unless the creation always was, right? It never had a starting. It just always was.
But that doesn't seem to be the case either.
Because of the present moment.
Because
we have
in
evidence
the era of
present
time.
moment. So if you have like an infinite amount of physical reactions in the past, you can't get to this present moment.
Yeah, I understand that philosophy, but it's not necessarily a law. There could be cyclical natures to the whole that we assume are endings of the whole, even though the small bits of the whole have, cycles that end and start. I don't necessarily think that there was a beginning or an end to anything.
Yeah,
It
that
makes
could be
sense
the
because
case, but it's
how
just
can
not
something
how
come from nothing?
Yeah, I hear you. That could be the case, but it just doesn't seem to be that way in reality, right?
Well, how do you know what seems to be in reality? You can't imagine. You can only imagine the beginning or the end. You can't know what seems to be the case as far as that goes.
There's plenty of fields of science that support that notion, theologically speaking, that everything came from source and reality had a beginning. And it's not that things came from nothing. No, they came from source, but that reality, the earth, us, we're not source. Even though we came from source, we're contingent on source, and source being non-contingent, the prime
But
mover.
that sounds like a contradiction, right? We came from source, but we're not source.
No, it's not. Not.
That's a common misconception of the infinite regress when people are talking about the creator of all things. So an all-powerful creator does not necessitate a more all-powerful creator. I think Rick wanted to ask a question before we move off that.
Yeah, I did. Hopefully I'll loop this all back in. It was sparked by Anchovy's comments, mostly based on his sentiment of what he was saying. He seems to be resentful. My question is mostly to the Abrahamic side of the angle. I mean, there's a couple of questions essentially, but at its baseline fundamentals would be: do you think that we chose to be born and come into existence, like the spirit, whether it had been around before, like you were birthed to a body? Or whether it was created in order to be birthed into that body. Is there any sort of comprehension there of, did you give consent to God to create you, or was it against your will? Was it, or it was negligent? Neither of those things. It was not even considered. You were just birthed in, and you didn't get a choice. What's the general wisdom on that?
Did someone give you a gift without your consent?
Well, see, I work with a baseline, right? That I don't want to go too much into why I'm talking about myself too much, but what is that? That I may as well just presume that I chose to come and be birthed into this existence, despite all the bad feelings and all the rest of it, and even times where I've been resentful of it. I just came to a rationalization, and it's just I may as well actually just choose to say that I chose existence, because the alternative is a very dark place, I think. And I've also got feedback just generally, right? If I don't look after myself, if I party too much and don't exercise, I start getting more depressed and bad feelings. But if I actively take on pain and responsibility of looking after my body, I'm kind of really happy-go-lucky. So I just sort of use that as something of a soul feedback to inform the decision that basically I chose to come to this place to feel all the feelings. So yeah, I mean, it just gets back to this idea of how does the religious side of things really view this? I mean, were you it'd be pretty wrong if you were brought into this world against your will. And I guess I'm just kind of looking for is there any sort of, what's the terminology, theological wisdom on this point?
Well, do you think you were a soul before this? Are you saying you possibly reincarnated here, or do you think you were just
Either way,
this little soul?
I chose it.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I work
a baby has choices. You're saying a baby can make choices. If it has its mind, say you have the mind of a baby, right? You're just born, so that's the mind you have.
I don't think so, Rick. Personally, I don't.
No.
Subscribe to that.
I'm not sure about this baby thing.
Did your soul develop
to come into this existence, and one of the contracts or conditional aspects of the agreement is that you were going to get your mind wiped, and you don't get to know specifically whether or not you chose to come into this existence.
I see what you're saying.
You had no consent.
So it's against your will.
You had no sentience prior to coming and being born of a woman.
But I do think God chose you to be born. I do think that He wanted you to be here.
Yeah, He wanted you, but you didn't choose to be here. No.
It's like a gift.
Rick, real quick, I mean, I've always thought that idea that we chose to come here or whatever is interesting, because the way you framed it sounds like you kind of okay, here's your choice. You could not exist at all, or you could not come into being a human. You're a soul now, but even though it's going to be all these bad experiences, as if you had a glimpse of what your whole life would be, and then you chose it then. Is that kind of how you see it? You knew everything was going to happen and all the bad and good before you made that choice, or was it just a choice to have an experience?
Perhaps you would see the blueprint sort of laid out in front of you of all the rules and contractual, if this, then that sort of logic is placed, and with that basis, you get born into the world with that understanding. I see. Presumably right before, and then you've got to contractually agree, obviously, that's your any idea of the notion of person is going to be wiped. And although sometimes I do wonder, right, it's just the experience of Like, as I've matured, maybe I'm coming into a closer understanding or a proximal understanding of what I was before. I don't know.
In the Christian worldview, God knew you before you were formed in the stomach, in the womb.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing is I agree with you, Rick, that is but I just think we're on a timeline difference. I think that's what you're doing right now. Like the blueprint has been laid before you, and now you get to choose life or death. You know what I mean?
I've entertained the idea that we were maybe we were sentient spirits in some type of astral realm or heaven before we decided to come to Earth and be born of a woman and grow up and regain consciousness again because of that one verse in Jeremiah. But after meditating on it in the scriptures for a while, I don't think that we were like sentient beings before we came and was born.
You're talking about before you formed in the belly, I knew you.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think he knew us and who we would become, but we didn't have any sentience.
But we do like that, Lion. But we do have that right now, right? Like that's what we have right now. We have the blueprint laid out in front of us, and we have a choice. We can either enter into the life or So it's like I could see where you could come to that conclusion. You know what I mean?
You know how some people believe in reincarnation and that like you can choose what family or like where you're born, and I don't know. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I just don't know like how many times you come back. There's so much arbitrariness surrounding it.
Oh, man. It seems a bit odd to me to be like one and done.
No, it's not one and done. It's not. That's not like I'm saying right now you have the choice to either enter into life or to do a one and done. That's like the choice. You know what I mean? You get to go to eternal life after, or you could choose one and done. Like if you're like, this is lame. I don't want, I don't like these rules.
I know Gio was talking about it the other day, reincarnation and stuff. I was listening. I just didn't feel like being confrontational. But like I think that every soul born is a brand new soul. Every person born is a brand new soul.
Yeah, that was one of my questions to them. Whether you thought new people, because the population's growing, if those are new souls or souls that were already sentient before this.
What was it? There's like a whole book on it. It's like a new age book that they like someone believes that basically God created all the souls of mankind, and that's what Satan was jealous over. You know what I mean? And that's why he came down to the earth real quick because he knew that's where he was going to put them, and that's why he like wants to torment everyone and stuff like that. So like they like all the souls already pre-existed, and I think there's some like I think that kind of like is in like Calvinism that there's chosen ones and non-chosen ones. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, there's no verse I know that talks about when the soul is created that I know of. I was like looking for that, like the creationist view that God creates a new soul for each person at conception. There's pre-existent souls, which is like less common of a belief, and then there's it's like traditionism, traducianism, which is like the soul is inherited from the parents. Like the body, your soul is like a genetic stitching soul, if that makes sense. Like your genes are a stitching half and half. Well, there's something called traducianism. So there's creationism, pre-existent souls, and traducianism. I'll put that in chat. I learned about this recently.
It's a combination of that because the same breath that was given to Adam, that same breath what's the right word? Like it continues with every generation, right?
Yeah,
all the way down to us. Permeates.
Nice.
And that breath, the ruach, the animated Adam, that same breath is like a chain reaction, and it's a sequence of births since Adam that continue to today. But that same breath that sparks all life, right, in humans, gives way to the soul to unravel and develop through your senses. Like you need senses to acquire awareness. Like you need hearing, touch, sight, smell, and with the increasing of awareness, you start increasing knowledge and consciousness. So you need senses. You actually need the body, contrary to popular belief. Now, God could create a being already fully intellectual from the get, right, from day one of its creation. But that's not what he did with mankind. With mankind, he made it so that they have to unravel, like the soul grows with sensory perception.
It seems like the first 7 years are very important for some reason. Like there's something major about the first 7 years of your life. And it is interesting that coincides with Adam, right? It was 7 years until...
Oh, you're talking about Jubilees? I see.
Yeah, yeah. So, but also, I know there's people in their lives that a lot of things happen at 7 years, and then there's like a famous philosopher that said, "Give me a boy till 7, and I'll show you the man." Right?
You know, in reality.
The body is good,
locally.
actually. You know, the brain is good. It's just that it's been, poisoned or whatever.
Well, I mean, we're in the time of flashing lights and addiction. Like the YouTube is. Imagine going to a casino in the 70s, right? There's a lot of flashing lights, is when they started figuring out how addictive everything is. The slot machines have the little fruits on them because our brain loves the sight of fresh fruits, etc. But now you have an algorithm. You have a YouTube algorithm that's catered to the things that your attention goes towards in your house. It's wild. You have like a hyper catered casino of flashing lights and sounds catered to what your attention most goes to in your house. And yet people still find a way to crush and not get like hooked on the quote unquote algorithm, which is awesome.
It's an interesting conversation too. It's like, what's the earliest memory you have? I don't know. That's always kind of like cool to think back on.
Mine's a dream from when I was like 2.
Mine's a dream too. Interesting. Is it like a repeating dream?
No, it's just an embarrassing dream when I was like 2. I remember the circumstances of it, but that's my earliest memory.
Did you shit your pants?
In the dream? Yep. It was a diaper though, it wasn't my pants.
My earliest is when I was 5. I got a bicycle that looked like a dirt bike and made all dirt bike noises. So that's my earliest memory. 5 years old, dude.
That was like a
Hard to
stingray.
tell.
Some people tell you stories about when you were younger and you could kind of imagine it, but it's not like, I don't know if I've been influenced,
My earliest memory is taking my brother out of his crib. My brother was a year younger than me, and I remember like picking him up and lifting him out of the crib. That's it. I don't remember anything else.
So if you had consciousness before you were born, would you remember it? Because if you can't remember before you were 5 or whatever, how would you know that you didn't have memories before you were born?
Yeah, definitely. That's like what makes me know there's something external to myself that probably is revelatory and would have left like breadcrumbs to find out what knowledge is and everything. Yeah. So that's why I follow the way that I do. Yeah. I don't lean on my own understanding.
It's a theological stance that I have due to scriptural justification. I can't prove that I wasn't a sentient being before being born of a woman. I don't have evidence of that either.
Are you saying born of a woman? Oh,
Yeah,
born
born
from
of
a
a
woman, your
woman.
mother. I thought you meant born
Yeah.
as a woman. I'm like, wait, you're a woman? Let's get Yasuke in on that.
I mean, I guess you could be a test tube baby, but
Yasuke, that's hilarious.
You're saying born of yeah. You're saying a woman gave birth to you. Okay, I thought you meant
well,
being born of a woman.
the reason I say that is to distinguish between the other sentient beings in the cosmos that weren't born of a woman, right? Like the angels.
Yeah, I got you.
We're known as sons of men, right? Sons of Adam.
What if it's all just for an interview in heaven, right? We chose to have this experience, right? And how we perform here dictates what we will do. So it doesn't have to be heaven, like you make up whatever you want, but it's going to dictate the role we fulfill somewhere else.
And then
it's a trial run.
Yeah, like we all signed up for this shit, right? But the whole thing, like someone mentioned earlier, like the mind wipe, not really a mind wipe, but just separated from your consciousness, right?
Like Men in Black, like the red flash thing.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah.
The neutralizer, what's it called?
Yeah, but not like a permanent thing, just like a way to like, okay, like I want to be a part of this program system, whatever it might be, right? And with that, how you perform and how you act and like what you do here dictates, not completely, but influences something else when you're done here.
Yeah, I'd definitely try to get to know the creator and figure out which one it is for sure in that scenario.
Or if you've seen Rick and Morty, they go to the mall or whatever it is and play that VR game, and then when you die, it's game over and you just take the helmet off.
Well, with that, there's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing how you got here, right?
In any scenario, there's no way.
Yeah.
No, there are ways. You can access the memories. Many people have. It takes a little work, though. Usually, people don't do it in their waking state, like either in dream states or trance states, or using plant medicines, or using breathing techniques or meditation techniques. But there's a lot of people that have. Now, you could take their experiences as just anecdotal or write them off or whatever. But there's a huge range of experiences, like past life regression, where you go into a very relaxed state of mind. You don't really have to take any substance to do that. Where you can tune in, access to past life memories. But then there's also something called life between life regression. They call it that, life between life, because it's like basically your life as a soul when you're not in a body, being in the spirit world essentially, and what that's like, and incredibly detailed experiences that people have. And what's interesting is that people that have done this research with many, many clients, these are people that don't know each other like in real life, but they actually report very, very similar things in terms of what the spirit world's like, and that you have like spirit guides and a soul group, and you reincarnate in different lifetimes and work through different things. And so it's interesting that they seem to report. It's not just like a bunch of different fractured, like, fantasies kind of things, like, I think the spirit world's like this, like that. It's like they're actually very cohesive in terms of what happens when you die and life between life, essentially. So that's a whole category of experiences and research as well.
Oh, speaking of that, bro,
like they were on the
let me
verge
ask
of
him
death.
this. Give me a second, because I'm going to forget, and it concerns Gio. I was watching this thing on DMT, and they were talking about elves. Everybody sees these little elves kind of things. Have you ever experienced elves?
There's different types of things. You're talking about like machine elves, or that's one that Terrence
Like trickster elves. They were like, some of them are good, they were saying, some of them are bad.
Yeah, there's a wide range of the entire pantheon of experiences. But yeah, I'm familiar with those. I've had, there's a wide range of them though, but I have had experiences involving
Oh yeah,
elf beings. Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious. All right.
There's a lot of different ones. Some of them are like
Did they
very
flip you off?
playful. Some of them are very playful, and they seem to kind of just like be like behind like the kind of electrostatic medium of reality, and they kind of are like making it all flow in a way. Those ones are not very like negative in any way. But yeah, there's different kinds, and Terrence McKenna talked about them a lot as well.
Like, this is the only, I don't want to call it a drug, because it's a vine or whatever, a herb, but people seem to be seeing the same things. Like when you do acid or when you smoke, you don't all see the same things. So there's like something to this thing.
Well, people do with LSD too, like the high dose LSD, and people do have similar experiences as well. Like there's entire categories, and not that everyone has the same experience, but it's the same with DMT. I mean, you could do DMT and like go to another dimension and see beings or whatever, or you might go into your childhood of some childhood memory you had. You know what I'm saying? It's a wide range. It's not like everyone has the same experiences. I mean, some people go to their birth, the memory of their birth, and they're having like ego death and rebirth, and other people might go to what's called, it's referred to as like transpersonal, which means like beyond the personal. There's a whole field of like transpersonal psychology. It has nothing to do with transsexual stuff. It's just the word trans came before that stupid this trans movement thing.
Yeah.
But just transpersonal psychology, which is essentially experiences that seem beyond the personal. Like when you have your personal life, like your biographical life, your childhood, your parents, and people start having experiences of, being in another culture or another world, or, those are kind of transpersonal. It's like beyond the personal. But yeah, there's like entire categories, and people with pretty much all of the plant medicines, and including like LSD, which is sort of from a plant, but it's semi-synthetic, and DMT. I mean, there's similar experiences that people have with all of them. But DMT does have a particular kind of realm that it tends to take people to frequently. Or
Yeah, like that's my whole point. You hear like you're going to another realm, whereas a trip is different, like a psychedelic LSD or all that angel dust and methadone and all this stuff, right? Mescaline and whatever, right? But there seems to be something different about this. Something about, I haven't done it, so I can't say. That's why I'm asking. I've done most of those other stuff when I was a kid, right? But this seems to be like you step into another kind of universe or another kind of realm or something, where there's like certain beings that try to teach you stuff or trick you. Like it seems to be a different kind of experience, like a shared kind of a thing.
Yeah, there's a lot I could say on it. I mean, DMT itself is a human neurotransmitter, and it is a psychedelic of sorts in that way. So I mean, people can have a whole range of experiences similar to what you could have on any other psychedelic, as well. But it also depends, I think, on what the DMT is extracted from. Like if you're going to be smoking like crystal DMT kind of thing, which is more maybe what you're referring to. Because like with ayahuasca, there's a lot of DMT in ayahuasca, but not everyone goes to that like kind of DMT realm on ayahuasca in that way. It can be a wide range of experiences, but so I think it's getting into more nuance of it. I mean, I had kind of brought up the life between life regression and past life regression. We could jump into the whole these whole compounds and experiences, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea and so on. And I'm kind of resistant to talk about it because a lot of people are not interested in it. I'd rather just talk about people that actually want to talk about it rather than sort of debate it or get under people's nerves or whatever if they don't like the topic. But either way, wherever you want to go with it. But what I'm saying is that like if DMT is made from like crystalline, like it's extracted from something, the actual plants themselves are like they have like essentially like DMT from different plants can take you to have different experiences essentially. So I do think that part of like what you're referring to, like that comment, like, oh, I smoked DMT and went to this realm and saw these entities, I think may have to do with what the DMT is actually extracted from. Because the DMT is like a vehicle for accessing the spirit worlds in different ways. So certain plants can give access to different experiences in different spirit worlds. And like something like ayahuasca has a broad spectrum of what kind of experiences. It's not just going to take you to like one kind of thing, but like Rick Strassman, when he wrote the like DMT, the spirit molecule, like they were extracting DMT and then injecting it into people from like specific sources. And then some people were having even like kind of like unpleasant or like very disjointed experiences. Anyways, there's a lot of nuance to that. I'm just saying it's not all the same, like not all DMT. It's a vehicle and what it's extracted from, because the plants are actually connected to spirit worlds as well. So what it's extracted from and how it's utilized can take people to have different experiences.
Okay, gotcha. Maybe I understood it wrong. Because the way I see it, when they do ayahuasca the right way, the right form with the shamanistic, in the forest and that people tend to see like a spirit guide, either an elf or some sort of creature, or maybe I understood it wrong.
That's exactly what happened to me in Cozumel with the shaman, supposedly a shaman. It's pretty scary for me though, I'm not gonna lie.
What did you experience? One of those creatures?
I mean, I can describe it if you want me to. I remember it pretty well.
I wouldn't mind.
It was pretty fast, like it was pretty quick. It was really, really warm, like everywhere. Like warmer, like even though it was inside, it was like even warmer than, like a fire. And kind of over in the corner, there was these two, I imagine like in a coffer. They came up from almost like from the sand, and they had on this like almost like armor. Like if you could imagine from Egypt, like an Egyptian like armor and staves, and I couldn't really make out what they were saying, or like, but it was this wild like old kind of weird like language. And the one thing that I kind of could tell was that they were judging me. They were like trying to figure out if I was ready for something, like maybe to follow them, or maybe to like learn something. I'm not sure exactly, but and then after that, they kind of just like went down into the ground, like back into the sand, and there was like sand spilling off of them. And I mean, I couldn't even tell you or describe like their faces. It was so weird, but that was basically the gist of it. It was pretty fast too. Happened pretty quickly, the whole thing.
Were you like lying down, eyes closed, or what? Were you unconscious?
No, I was sitting like crisscross applesauce inside of like a hot, almost like a hot room. There was like a fire in the corner, and my eyes were wide open the whole time.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty freaking intense.
It was very, very intense, and I was a lot younger, and well, I also I didn't really know anything at all. I mean, I'll just be honest, like I didn't have a clue about anything, even a little bit, compared to, I'd say, the research and time I've put in now. So this is
You
like
smoked it? Was it like a pipe? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and I also took some and ate it as well. It was like this weird like liquid paste kind of substance. It was pretty nasty.
Wait, what was this? What was the? Doesn't sound like
Ayahuasca.
ayahuasca. You don't smoke ayahuasca. I'm trying to figure out what you were. Was it a ceremony of sorts or what?
No. I mean, maybe what I was smoking wasn't even ayahuasca, but I definitely took ayahuasca. I ate ayahuasca for sure.
It's usually in a liquid. Did you drink like a shot, like an ounce of liquid?
No, I mean it was kind of liquefied, but it was like, I guess it was kind of liquefied.
Yeah, see, I just never know. There's so many like different people doing things in South America, trying to make a buck, and some of them may be real ayahuasca, some might not be. They mix different plants. They mix different plant mixtures and call it ayahuasca. So yeah, I'm not
Exactly.
trying to question what you took or whatever. I'm just
No, it's true. You need to be careful. Like I was an idiot 6, 7, 8 years ago, so I don't even remember when was that. Like 2018, something like that. And yeah, I was really, reckless. I did a lot of stupid shit. I was smoking weed like a lot, like all the time. Um, but yeah, I would say it didn't really hit me immediately. And the substance that I like, you could say I ate it. It was kind of like liquidy. Yeah. It tasted horrible. And the smoking part of it was like, I don't know, it was so strange. It was so weird. So you're probably right. It probably wasn't even fucking like the part I smoked. I couldn't even tell you what it was. Probably wasn't ayahuasca if I'm just guessing. Just because, like you said, people were sketchy everywhere, right? Not just in Mexico, but everywhere. I mean, how do I even know that was a real shaman? You know?
Tell me you didn't go to ratemyshaman.com before?
Nope. I was just down there for a day. Met this guy in the middle of basically in the middle of nowhere, and it was like a hot, almost like a house.
Does that add or remove credibility? I feel like if you meet a shaman in the middle of a desert, there might be more credibility there than if you meet a shaman in like a mansion. If you think about it.
I mean, maybe. Like I said, like I couldn't even be sure, right? Like you got anybody that does something like that, you gotta be super, super careful. Like back then, I didn't give a fuck, right? I mean, I was eating McDonald's. I was partying like all the time. I was going out to bars until 4 a.m. kind of thing. I was a lot more reckless back then for sure, and I didn't give a fuck about anything. And I even claimed like prior, like a couple years prior to that, I even claimed myself as an atheist, like when I was in college, a couple years prior to that. So like my whole world was different, and I'm
Wow.
kind of embarrassed like about it. You know what I mean? So
I mean, all that stuff's forgivable. Atheism and partying and drinking weed, ayahuasca, but eat McDonald's. I mean, to have some standard.
I remember the last time I ate a burger from McDonald's was right around 2018. It was in the cold months, the winter months. And it was right like it's Western Maryland. I remember where I was eating it. So sucks, but it is what it is.
I remember the last time I had Taco Bell. It was after years of not having any fast food. I was like, yeah, Taco Bell. No. They don't do it.
You probably had your wool touching linen, didn't you, Wolfie? Just kidding.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. It's some weird rule in the Bible. Like, that's one of the weird ones about having certain cloths next to each other.
Well, there's like a scientific study behind linen, basically. You
I
ever
know.
looked into it? Yeah, so it's a weird one, but it is interesting.
It's still weird.
When people look into it.
Regardless of if it's true, it's still weird.
Seems like an oddly Mormon thing to say, Matthew.
My Mormon dog has got to me.
Yeah, so this guy got a Mormon dog, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm going to inherit a planet when I die. Oh, I'm going to marry several women. And he's saying it's not due to the dog.
How do you know it's a Mormon dog? Did he try to?
My wife had
come
to
up to your
fly to
door?
Utah to get it. She went all the way to Utah. And it is confirmed. It was from a Mormon family, Gally. Confirmed. In
It's
reality.
confirmed. And the dog also repeatedly tells you that you're going to inherit a planet after you pass on. So, Peter, why would you think it's not a Mormon dog based on all this evidence? And this picture I posted in chat of Matthew's dog.
Do dogs go to heaven in Mormonism?
Mormon dogs do.
You know how you drop a bottle cap off a soda or water bottle or something?
My dog could do that for you.
You guys hear me?
Yeah. I don't know what you said. You said something about a soda cap. What the fuck you say, Jeremy?
Yo, you know how you drop the soda cap, the cap off your soda or your water or whatever, the little cap? I'm mad lucky when it comes to that shit landing, bro. I feel like I'm getting like 80% they're landing the right way. You know what I'm talking about?
I think Jeremy's having a stroke, you guys.
Like upside down, so you can get any germs on your lips.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that what
landing
you're
the right way. It's landing the right way up like 80% of the time for me. Like no joke, bro. Serious amount of correct landings I'm having.
Why are you dropping it so often?
How about
It
buttered
happens.
toast? Are you lucky with buttered toast too?
Oh, are you talking about that movie, the M. Night Shyamalan movie with the elevator? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I
Devil?
don't know what you're talking about. Just talking about dropping bottle caps. Is it?
He just, yeah, no, Jeremy just literally saying, "I'm super lucky, guys. Thanks for listening."
When he's around, toast falls
Obviously,
jam side down.
he's referencing Inception. It keeps landing the right way, and he's questioning whether or not he's in a dream.
There we go, Bob Dole. Bob Dole. I like where your head's at.
I was thinking that a little bit. That's cool.
I like where your
that.
head's at.
Jeremy's token is just a Snapple cap. It always tells me I have something good in my future. So I know I'm dreaming. Alright, BRB, I'm gonna smoke with my dad.
I'm asking AI to like draw like the words I'm using for describing my experience. Let's see if it does a good job. One that's really wild I see is 5-MeO DMT. It's a different type of DMT, 5-methoxy DMT. That's the one that the most prevalence that people refer to takes them literally to the source, to the creator, to the source of creation. If you read many people's experiences with that, it doesn't necessarily take everyone there, but like a very, very high dose of 5-MeO DMT is the like in terms of these as being vehicles, is the one that tends to take people to the source of all creation. Or they describe
That's the
it as like-
Mercedes-Benz of DMT vehicles.
if you want to get to the source, yeah. For getting to the actual like root of it all. Yeah.
So there's like different proof, 100 proof, 150 proof. I'm joking. I get what you're saying.
And Gio wants you to make sure that you use his creator code when you buy it.
Oh, it's not easy
I'm
to get.
assuming that stuff is intense. Very intense, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Well, when you say to the source, what exactly is the description that people are having in common as the source?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a wide range of like experiential. Obviously, if you're reading someone else's experience, it would only be theirs, but they definitely, generally describe it like, it's all from their experience, of course. So, but they report that, like, they in some cases report it as seeing light, like it's like a million suns, like as bright as a million suns, and as just having this like infinite creative energy to it, like light and love, which I know kind of sounds kind of cliche. And it is, it's hard for me to kind of summarize in just a few words of all these different people's experiences. But the way it's described when they go there or when people have these experiences, that they feel like they reached the source of all being. Like, and there's experiences in like in the ancient texts about like meditation practices and stuff trying to reach this as well. So it's pretty ancient in terms of these experiences and reaching that like that infinite light, like the nirvana state. But yeah, they just, when people have the experience, they report like that was the source of all creation, the way that they describe it. Like it contained like that omnipotent, omnipresent, and they were like back in that state essentially. It's the best I could do to try to word it in like in 30 seconds.
At the very end of my trip, I went to that last scene in the Matrix, like the creator with all the screens, and like every single one of those screens was different like colors and harmonic frequencies going on. It was crazy.
I got a question. Has anyone ever done dextromorphin? Or dextra? Some people call it robo tripping. Or like the levels of dex. I'm probably not saying the term right, but there's this thing we used to do in high school called triple C's, which are cold cough and quercetin or something like that. And it was just like pure dextro. It was actually insane, like what we did. But it took like, you're supposed to take like 8 of them for like the first level, and then 16 for the next level, and so on and so forth. Out of all the drugs I've ever done, including DMT, including acid, including mushrooms, that was the most intense one like I've ever done, because of how long it lasts. It lasts like a whole day or two. And that one made it so that like you felt like if I don't know, it's probably not a good thing, but if you felt like your head was like a giant heavy balloon and your body was like paper mache essentially. And every time you would have a conversation with somebody, like it would feel like 30 minutes have went by, but really it was only like a 5-minute conversation. And imagine that for like 2 days. It's insane.
Yeah, I'm familiar with DXM. I haven't done high doses of it. I know people that have though. It's not really a classic psychedelic, but it really can mess you up. You can get really inebriated on it, like really effed up on DXM. It's like a chemical that's in Robitussin.
Yep.
People used to drink Robitussin.
That
It's
one
like a dissociative. It's like a dissociative chemical.
Yeah, that one was very strong. And then every time you would try to close your eyes, you're just getting like DMT visuals. So there was that. Yeah, what was that?
I've heard
like,
of people that have had really intense trips on it. Yeah.
Like what family of drug is that anyway? DXM. Just completely synthetic.
It is completely synthetic, like in terms of made in a laboratory. Yeah. You're saying like what family is it in?
Yeah.
Well, it's a cough suppressant, but let's see, sedative, dissociative, and stimulant. It's in a morphinan class of medications. It says it has an affinity for the mu opioid receptor.
Mm.
They call it here also dissociative hallucinogen. Yeah, it's pretty wicked nasty from my understanding of it. Although I know people have had like crazy trips on it. Like I don't know, I'm not saying like necessarily healing trips per se, but like very weird and very like highly inebriating kind of experiences.
Oh, I still think it's one of the most, in terms of like lasting and strong effects, like where you just you feel it for like a whole day, maybe 2 days, depending on how much you take. So like the conversations you would have with people, like it would literally feel like 30 minutes, but only 5 minutes go by, and you felt like you just had an entire like 2-hour conversation with somebody, and it's only been like 10 minutes, and you got all this information out. It didn't make sense. It really didn't make sense. But I even went to work on it one time. I worked at Smith's, just like as a bagger, pushing carts or whatever when I was like 16. And you have like super strength too when you're on it. Like I pushed like 30 carts at once or whatever. It was something ridiculous.
That time thing, it sounds like kind of like a dream within a dream thing again. The way you're describing it, how it's like different. It's like multiplied almost. But then you like come out of it and it's like, oh, that was such a short amount of time.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Sorry for bringing it up. I was just curious if anyone in here knows what that is or have done it. It's because it was such a unique trip compared to everything else that you could have access to. I don't even think you can get triple C's anymore. Yeah, so in Delsum or Robitussin, like you'll have DXM like present in it, but then there's also some other stuff in there too. So it's not like pure DXM. The triple C's were pure DXM, and it was just like in a pill form. So it's just compacted.
Doesn't that stand for cold, cough, and congestion?
Yeah, something like that. I know it was called Coracetin, like with a C.
Yeah, people do weird stuff when they drink too much Robitussin, man.
Yeah. Anyway. So, SC is going to do DMT soon, right, SC? Going to see the elves up there in Canada?
If I was younger, I'd be thinking about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I just found this experience of 5-MeO DMT. Do you guys, do you want me to read it? It's like, I don't know, as many as...
Go for it.
All right. Well, this is from a book called When the Impossible Happens, Adventures in Non-Ordinary Reality. Essentially, this guy, Stanislav Grof, who wrote, it's like a compilation of a bunch of different experiences people have had. So in this experience, he basically had pure powdered 5-MeO DMT, and you can actually blow DMT into the nose. Like there's actually certain plants that are made, they're called like snuffs, where you don't necessarily snort it like cocaine usually. It's actually blown into the nose like these medicinal plant compounds. But in this case, he did actually like snort a line, essentially like 2 lines of 5-MeO-DMT, because the DMT goes right to the pineal gland through the nose cavity, and he hit a pipe with DMT. So this is all like essentially like synthetically derived. Well, not, I mean, 5-MeO-DMT comes from plants, but I'm saying it's not, this version was not in a plant. This was like the pure white powder 5-MeO-DMT, which is like, in some people's experience, like the most intense just because it's like a pure powder of it. So he basically like did 2 like lines in each nostril and a levelless aspal color. It's white. 5-MeO-DMT is more of a white color. But yeah, so he did 2 lines of it essentially in in each nostril and hit a pipe, like, you know, several tokes off a pipe. Maybe I'll try to just skim through the major parts. I'll try to make it brief enough here. It'll just be a few sentences here. All right, so this is right when he started. It says, the beginning of the experience was very sudden and dramatic. I was hit by a thunderbolt of immense power that instantly shattered and dissolved my everyday reality. I lost all contact with the surrounding world, which completely disappeared as if by magic. In the past, whenever I had taken high dose of psychedelics, I like to lie down and make myself comfortable. This time, any such concerns were irrelevant because I lost awareness of my body as well as the environment. In my previous sessions, I always maintained some basic orientation. Like he's talking about other psychedelic sessions with other compounds. I knew who I was, where I was, and why I was having these experiences. This time, all of this dissolved in a matter of seconds. The awareness of my everyday existence, my name, my whereabouts, and my life disappeared as if by magic. These concepts faintly echoed for a few moments like dreamlike images of the far periphery of my consciousness and then faded away altogether. I tried hard to remember myself of all the existence of the realities I used to know, but they suddenly did not make any sense. In all my previous psychedelic sessions, there had always been some rich specific content. The experiences related to my present lifetime, the story of my childhood, infancy, birth, and embryonal life, or to various themes from the transpersonal domain. My past life experiences, images of human history, archetypal visions of deities and demons, or visits to various mythological domains. This time, none of these dimensions seemed to exist, let alone manifest. My only reality was a mass of radiant, swirling energy of immense proportions that seemed to contain all of existence in a condensed and entirely abstract form. I became consciousness facing the absolute. It had the brightness of a myriad of suns, yet it was not the same continuum with any light I knew from everyday life. It seemed to be pure consciousness, intelligence, and creative energy transcending all polarities. It was infinite and finite, divine and demonic, terrifying and ecstatic, creative and destructive, all that and much more. I had no concept, no categories for what I was witnessing. I could not maintain a sense of separate existence in the face of such a force. My ordinary identity was shattered and dissolved. I became one with the source. In retrospect, I believe I must have experienced the Dharmakaya, the primary clear light, which according to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Bardo Thodo, appears at the moment of our death. It bore some resemblance to what I encountered in my first LSD session, but it was much more overwhelming and completely extinguished any sense of my separate identity. I'll just read the last little part here. My encounter with the Absolute lasted approximately 20 minutes of clock time as measured by external observers. As far as I was concerned, during the entire duration of my experience, time ceased to exist and lost any meaning whatsoever. After what seemed like an eternity, concrete dreamlike images and concepts began to form in my experiential field. I started intuiting fleeting images, and then he talks about coming back to Earth. Yeah, so the rest of it is kind of like coming back into his body. But yeah, that's basically the main part of the experience.
It's pretty interesting. He probably felt like a pro. Got himself all ready to go. Like, all right, let's do this, and immediately just did not expect that. That's hilarious.
That's how Terrence McKenna always described it. He said, "There's nothing you can ever do to prepare yourself, and it doesn't matter what kind of day you're having or anything like that. It's so overpowering that none of that matters."
I guess just to finish it, since I cut it out because I kind of stopped it, I'll just read the very last part here, and then I'll be done. I'll just read this last paragraph. He says, as I was regaining more solid contact with reality, I reached a point where I knew that I was coming down from a psychedelic session and that I would survive this experiment. I was lying there, still experiencing myself as dying, but now without the sense that my present life was threatened. My dying seemed to be related to scenes from my previous incarnations. I found myself in many dramatic situations happening in different parts of the world throughout the centuries, all of them dangerous and painful. Various groups of muscles in my body were twitching and shaking as if my body was hurting and dying in these different contexts. However, as my karmic history played out in my body, I was in a state of profound bliss, completely detached from all these dramas, which persisted even after all of the specific contact disappeared from my experience. So yeah, it sounds like he had a whole like karmic past life residue experience at the end.
Did you see what I posted in chat? Because it kind of reminded me of that. There's like a little short on YouTube where like Pikachu accidentally does acid, and he's like having like this crazy animated trip. It's so detailed, visual, and then in actuality, he looks like the other picture.
Oh yeah, that's what he's experiencing, but on the outside. Well, I know in this experience I just read what he said, like, because I was trying only to clip the certain parts of it just to try to read that part. But basically, like, they say that, like, when he hit the pipe, like, he did the powder into the nose and the nasal cavity, and then he hit the pipe, and then they said that he just, like, looked like a statue. Like, from the outside, the people that were there, he just looked like a statue. And then they kind of gently leaned him back, so he could lie down, and then he just, like, sat there just like completely still for the whole 20 minutes. But what he was experiencing on the inside was all of that. I was reading.
Yeah, it's wild. But just like, what can you actually do with this information after a trip?
Well, they talk about integration, like integrating into your life, like any like lessons that can be learned or healing. Is that what you mean? Like what practically can come from them?
But how can you learn any lessons if you have no sense of awareness or like yourself? You know what I mean? And you're just looking at geometric shapes that are just basically the building blocks of reality, and it's not really easy to comprehend. I get it might like change your mindset in an overall way if you've never tripped before, and maybe you have like a new outlook on the world because it's not just like a sober mind, right? We look at people and animals and everything else differently, like as a more connected way. I get that social aspect, but in terms of like continuing to trip, like, is there entities you talk with? Like, is there a purpose other than just to get blasted? I know it's a tough question. Sorry.
I would definitely say so.
If someone else
I
wants,
think
yeah, go ahead. I switched over to my phone. Go ahead.
I think it's like incalculable in a way.
Right.
You can't put your finger quite on or put into words what it does to your consciousness or whatever, but that the whole dissolving of the ego and your like individuality, I think, is really important because, I mean, I don't know, the ego is just your false identity, your false beliefs about yourself. I went through psychedelics experience in much younger age, and these things like integration, like Gio just talked about, were concepts that we were aware of that, it's actually best after a hard LSD trip to like spend some time to yourself and like not even try to describe it to people that weren't with you or haven't done it or anything like that, because you need an integration period to be able to, I don't know, make sense of it. That's important too. So it's not just like, oh, I got to get blasted. There's a right way to do these things. They can be abused just like anything else.
Right.
Yeah, I mentioned the integration because, like, even if I use the term like psychedelic therapies or like working with like in a shamanic context with these plants and compounds, there's the experience itself, which like ideally you want to kind of be able to surrender and go through the experience and allow your, if something painful comes up to experience the emotions, or if something pleasurable comes up to experience that. But whatever the entire experience is, there's like a really important integration stage afterwards, which sometimes you're encouraged to like do like a drawing, to like draw with like colored pencils, like what your experience was, or even to write in a journal about it, and to work on like not only recalling but also like what lessons came up, or what things that you realized about your life, maybe something that happened to you as a child or something that you did in your life, and how you impacted others. So there's generally like the integration phase is really important, in terms of trying to like glean everything you can from the experience, and then how to practically integrate it into your life. Like if you were getting insights about your diet, maybe like how you're eating, and maybe people have like a food addiction and then it's hurting their health, so they had a whole bunch of experiences linked to that or something, on that level. Some of these, that's more of like a personal level, though. Some of these more transcendent experiences are, to integrate like what I just read there, like what he experienced. That's probably something personal to him on that level, like having that level of a spiritual immersion into what creation is and what life is. But yeah, generally that integration phase, which is not always easy to do, but it's like a really important phase of like actually integrating it into your life, like what the meaning was, and then how to progress forward, in a way that's more integrated and more holistic within oneself, than it was before the experience.
So the integration is basically my question. What can you actually glean from it?
Well, I mean, your creativity, first of all, is like, multiplied or amplified, even after contact with the substance, like I remember skateboarding when I was a teenager while you're tripping, and like I was better the next day afterwards. Like I was better at skateboarding. My balance was better. Like it was fun. It was a good time. But I think it could be used for creative means obviously people probably know that from music history and stuff like that. But even people in Silicon Valley are known for, you know, tripping and taking microdoses and shit to do complex mathematical work and stuff.
Hmm.
Have you never heard of that, dude?
I know
People in the tech
fighters.
industry?
I know fighters use microdosing, like low dose, microdosing on shrooms, like psilocybin, like really low dose, and it helps them in their fights and their bouts.
Yeah, it's because it's
Yeah,
like
kind of like in
physical
a
chat.
performance enhancing. Yeah, it's like a
Well, they're-
performance enhancing way.
They're trying to think 5 moves ahead.
Yep. So I get that aspect. I guess my question really is the utility overall. Like I think if its utility for sure comes from having a psychedelic or out of body experience in itself, right? The ego death essentially, or like where you have that fear. But after that, I don't know. Unless you're like talking with entities or like getting information about the future. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out how you can quote unquote integrate it into your life. It'd have to be for a very specific thing. I don't see. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
would
think it's
actually
just kind of
definitely.
there's a wide. I would just say real quick, it's a wide range. Like some people, like they were to do ayahuasca, for example. Like they describe how like the ayahuasca is actually like opening up like channels in their body, like opening up like blockages of energy. So there's some things that are like actual physical that are being like cleared or opened up, or like pathways, like meridians, energy meridians in the body that were blocked. Maybe even clearing out like infections or parasites or things like that that were linked to depression and things physically. So there's like that component that you just kind of get hooked up, like you just get healing where that integrating it into your life, like you have more energy, healthier, sleep better, don't have the same skin problems or whatever problems that were caused by parasites or infections. So there's kind of that whole level of it, the physical. There's like the like learning part of it, like people get like lessons about their life or like what they've been doing wrong or what they did wrong in the past or how they're treating others, like getting like an insight from the experience, which that would be like on the integration side, you'd be like, oh, okay, I realize that, I'm getting quick to anger or something, and so I need to watch my anger more. Just whatever it may be on that level. And then some of these like spiritually transcendent level experiences where you're like hitting some kind of peak, like a peak mystical experience of like oneness with all creation or something like that. That's kind of just inherent in the experience themselves. Like for a lot of people, that never leaves them after the experience. Like they have that more visceral sense of connection with themselves, or kind of on that level too. So those are just a few, but there's just kind of a wide range depending on what experience the person's having, and then is it like their first experience or their 10th or 20th, or to what degree are they kind of working on these parts of themselves and coming to further realizations that they then become a changed person, and then that new person that comes out, how do they proceed from there? But I mean, it seems like from the overall range of, depending on what compounds people are using, but able to make like dramatic transformations in their personalities. And in some cases, people that have like actual mental disorders like bipolar and stuff like that, like they're able to actually resolve that entire bipolar state. So, somebody who's like hardcore bipolar, like mainstream medicine can't even really help them. Really, they can just take drugs and kind of numb it out. But if you were to get to the bottom of your bipolarness or whatever, like there's gonna be a lot of like lessons and challenges and energy channels that need to be opened up and cleared. And so that's generally what people are going through, depending on what they're working with and what state they're in.
Yeah, I can see the argument for actual new neural pathways being opened up or accessed. All the different parts of your brain firing at the same time.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Like you're thinking in different and new ways, and it's like, the evidence is out there, man. It amplifies your creativity, And so Beast was asking about use cases. I wanted to say that a lot of people are using it for like when terminally ill patients, when they know they're going to die, it helps them cope with death too. So that's been in the past couple decades become a lot more popular.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Beast's point as well is that perhaps we're not using it properly. If there was like an actual playbook, like while you're tripping, like if there's like a certain set of events you're supposed to be doing while you're under to access new shit, like maybe we don't know what we're doing when we're tripping. It's a possible argument, but
Well, maybe those instructions, right, are actually written in the songs that they play alongside with some certain shamanic trips, certain rhythms and shit that actually go with the trip and change the trip. Could be a possibility, right? Certain chants or mantras or rhythms could definitely have some sort of effect. I'm sure. There's,
No, absolutely. I think you're right. Because how I was taught and stuff when I was young was that your set and setting, your environment is very important, and like the vibe for the day is very important. Like you might wake up having planned that day to take a trip or whatever, and then this is how I was taught. If the vibes weren't right, if we just weren't feeling exactly, then you wouldn't do it. It was really a feel thing. It wasn't just a willy-nilly type of deal with the way that I was exposed to it in my teenage years. There's like a protocol. And I would also say a focused intent. Like I was telling you, people in Silicon Valley use it to, figure out complex math and computer stuff, But having a focused intent with it definitely would be useful, It's not just something, oh, I'm going to take this like I'm drinking, not advisable.
When you say like it feels right, like I think back to the times I did it, and I used to say that too. Like you want to make sure you have a good environment and everything, but before taking it, like it always feels a little like you're like, you know what I mean? Like how do you deal with that?
Not to take it back to the Bible, but it does tell us that 1/3 of those angels are fighting for Lucifer. So how do you know which one of those dudes you're talking to is the right one to be talking to?
Yeah, I was actually gonna say the way you described it, angling about these guys from Silicon Valley, they're just using it for complex mathematics. I feel like is the sugar coated version that's told, because there might be a correlation. Not saying there's a causation, but might be a correlation. To the fact that like most of our, innovations from Silicon Valley happened under the influence of psychedelics and/or, hallucinogens, and that they have like a transhumanistic mindset from it. So, who knows?
And we see the fruit of that.
Yeah,
it looks a little rotten to me.
That's a little weird.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's like when you're using it and then you interface with like technology. Like silicone? I don't know. I've always had this feeling that silicone is actually alive. Might sound weird.
Like crystals, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
dude. Seems like it, right? It grows.
They grow. They have a certain frequency. They react.
They store information.
You can store information on it. Yeah. Pretty strange. That we're just like, it's just a motherboard and it's just a microprocessor and it's totally fine. Semiconductors are totally normal. Like all this shit is we just take for granted, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like this is some weird alchemy shit, dude.
It reminds me, who's that? You'll know, Beast. That Gordy guy that he's developing supercomputers to literally talk to entities. Isn't his name Gordy something?
Gordy, I don't know.
That's where I'm at, dude. I mean, the purpose of a lot of this stuff is to become transcendental, so that you can communicate. That's what the occult uses it for. And if you look at
there's
the
a lot of
purpose
different compounds. There's a lot of different substances, though. Like which ones are you guys referring to? I mean, for example, like peyote is like a cactus plant medicine. That's like very different than, like LSD. Even though LSD is like really lysergic acid, which comes from plants. But I mean, there's a lot of different compounds, and and how they use it in Silicon Valley. I don't know. I mean, it seems like we have a lot of amazing technology that may have had insights from possibly some people using some of these and getting insights, in terms of like to develop the technology. But
I wanted to say something real quick before I forget. People keep talking about the ego death, and I think that's like it's a misnomer, because everybody that I know that's had an ego death, whether it was on LSD or mushrooms or DMT or salvia or even spice for that matter, K2, because I know people that had ego deaths on spice, where they went to the same space of nothingness, where they lose their individual self, their individuality cease to exist, and they become, their ego becomes fractured, but they still know who they are, right? They still have their identity. It's just that they don't have their individual self anymore. They become, absorbed into existence, but you still know who you are. You just don't have like a reference point anymore.
Well, ego death can be linked to like the experience of dying. Like you usually feel like, I've gone through many of them, where you actually feel like you are physically dying. You're like, oh my gosh, this is it. There's going to be a body bag here tomorrow. You're already thinking like there's going to be body bags. They're going to be coming. My mom's going to be crying. Like this is it. I'm dead. And it can feel physically like you're actually dying, like to an extreme level, which is really intense. It's almost like practicing dying before you actually die. And yeah, that could be connected to like parts of your personality that were no longer serving you are also dying along with that. Like you can feel the physical dying experience, but then also like some part of you, like some maybe more immature part or something is dying. And then there's generally like a rebirth of some sort where there's kind of a reintegration into like a more whole version of yourself is how people describe it. So it's like disconnecting from some old, it's almost like shedding this, like the skin, like the way a snake sheds a skin that it doesn't need any longer. So it can be experienced like that as well.
I can see that, but my point is that even though you do feel like you're dying and it is like a near death experience, you still retain who you are. Even in the peak climax point, you still retain who you are. You know, you being a son of a father, right? Your actual earthly father, or if you have children, you yourself are a father. You might be a husband, right? You still retain who you are. All the memories that make you who you are, your experiences that make you who you are, you still retain that. That doesn't just vanish and go away. When you come back from that near death experience, you cherish life more. You cherish your family. You cherish your bonds with your family, and it gives you a reset, right? A new love for life.